wisdom and your guidance as we deal with the affairs of the parish, Lord. We also ask that your favor and your blessing would be upon all the people of Terrebonne Parish, Lord. Help them through this time, lead them in the directions they need to go, and let all things that they deserve come to them, Lord, all the blessings and the favor as they're dealing with the situation. Father, we thank you for this, and we give you the praise and the glory for what you're doing in our midst. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Babin? Here. Mr. Dirk Gidry? Mr. Trosclair? Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding? Mr. Michel? Mr. Amade?
Here.
Mrs. Domain? Mr. Darren Gidry?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to recognize, of course, Mr. Johnny Pislata, former Terrebonne Parish Councilman, who's here. And I don't know if I see, hopefully, Mr. Johnny. And thank you all for coming. And I know we have Mr. Salver and several people with the Waterworks District here, and we'll be introducing them later on. I also want to thank the Terrebonne Parish School Board for allowing us to use their building while our second floor is still under renovations. Distribute the minutes of the emergency council session held on September 29th, 2021, which we've done. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on August 25th, 2021. Move Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Approve accounts payable bill list for October 4th, 2021 and October 11th, 2021. Move Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Approve manual checklist for August 2021. Move Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 1, general business. Discussion and update from the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness relative to COVID-19 and any other pertinent public information. Mr. Earl Hughes.
Good evening. Earl Hughes, Director of the Terrebonne Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. So I'll start off with the hurricane report for Ida. We still presently have 102 people in the Red Cross shelter, which has been combined into one shelter on Equity Boulevard. If you remember at the last meeting, we had 3 separate shelters, so we have combined that into one facility. We're, like I said, down to 102 shelterees or evacuees. At the last meeting, we were closer to somewhere a little over 200. So there are they call them mass teams. There are teams going in there trying to place the evacuees in either temporary housing or some type of housing arrangement instead of them having to stay in the shelter the entire time. We're continuing to work with GOSEP and FEMA on debris management. You all are familiar with how much debris we've had out there. So far to today, we picked up 1.2 million cubic yards within the parish. Speaking to Clay Knockhand yesterday with solid waste, it looks like they're going to finish the first pass at the end of this week. So hopefully we'll start beginning the second pass of picking up the debris. I know you all see a lot of debris on the roads, and I, just like you guys, I ride around the parish. A lot of that's on the state right-of-ways. So Clay's working with them, trying to speed them up and trying to pick up their debris also on those right-of-ways. We currently are keeping up with HUD and their initiatives to place the residents in Senator Circle and in Bayou Towers into temporary housing. And the temporary, Chris Pulaski will come up and speak about the temporary shelter housing and the direct housing issues with the state. I'd like to just acknowledge Nicole Davis with the IT department. She's been doing a great job pushing out the public information that we get, either FEMA information, SBA information, any of the federal agencies or state agencies. She's been pushing out that information for us on Facebook. Dean Sweats continues to do the donations and volunteer relief efforts through the Civic Center. He's also maintaining the self-service pods that will replace the original pods that were operated by the National Guard. They're continuing to make sure that there's ice there and water, and I think they're dropping off pallets of MREs for people that continue to want to have an MRE. The Red Cross is still feeding down the bayous. They're pushing out about 2,000 meals a day still, and Dean Sweats is also still continuing his efforts on pushing people that want to cook meals to continue to push those down the bayou and on the east side of the city for those in need. Today was the final day to register for DSNAP, the Disaster Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, and then the Blue Roof deadline will be October 15th of this month. We're continuing to do vaccinations and COVID testing throughout the parish with the Department of Health. And then, let's see. So far, they've placed 2,025 blue roofs throughout the parish. We still are, FEMA's still out there meeting with homeowners, walking and canvassing neighborhoods, helping them with registrations, and we still have the Disaster Recovery Center at the Civic Center. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen about 2,300 people at the Civic Center. Most of those people have appeals to their disasterassistance.gov application, so they're in there trying to help them with those appeals. And then so far in the parish, we have about 41,085 people that have registered under the disasterassistance.gov. Money's allocated to date by FEMA throughout the parish. Now this is for individual housing assistance, rental assistance, repair assistance, other needs assistance. So far it's about $227 million through the parish, through those eligible 41,067 people that have valid registrations. So FEMA is pushing down funds to residents that are in need. One of the highest things is for repairs. The average amount given to someone is about $10,000. Actually, it's a little less than $10,000. But just remember the maximum that you can get from FEMA is about $40,000, and barely anybody ever gets the maximum relief from that effort. What I'd like to do now, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, is to call up Ms. Elizabeth Vargas with the Small Business Association to give us a presentation regarding the small business loans. There's a lot of confusion when a resident hears small business assistance, that they think it's only related to businesses when it's not. They do a lot of relief for and assistance for our residents. So I'd like to, if it's okay, to call Ms. Vargas up to do her presentation. And then I'll do the, then I'd like to call Chris Pulaski after to give the housing, and then I'll give the COVID numbers after, if that's okay.
That'll be fine.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vargas?
If you don't mind, state your name and address for the record.
Excuse me?
Just state your name.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And your business address.
Yes, Elizabeth Vargas. My business address is 4214 Fornari Lane in Houston, Texas.
Thank you.
And I am a public information officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance. So I would like to show you a small presentation with the highlights of our program. Well, right now, here I have the declaration map, which shows the 25 declared parishes that are entitled to individual assistance and public assistance. In the case of individual assistance, SBA's disaster loan program offers loans, low-interest direct loans to businesses, nonprofit organizations, homeowners, and renters for damages that are not covered by insurance or other recovery funds. In this case, could be FEMA funds. The economic injury loans for working capital needs, for working capital needs for businesses that may not have any physical damage, but they were closed for a period of time due to the disaster, and they didn't have any income, so they can get a loan for those, for that money that they didn't receive, and so they can keep their business open. So it's mainly working capital. And these are the disaster loan limits for businesses. The maximum amount is $2 million for any business or private nonprofit organizations to repair or replace real estate, inventory, equipment, or any losses that they had. And the economic injury disaster loans are the same, up to $2 million for working capital needs. The home loans, homeowners may get up to $200,000 to repair or replace their primary residence. For homeowners and renters also, we have loans up to $40,000 to repair or replace personal property. These may include their furniture, their vehicle, or anything that they lost due to the hurricane. And we also have mitigation. Businesses, private nonprofit organizations, and homeowners may get up to 20% of any verified physical damage for a limit of $200 for homeowners and the 20% for the rest. Here I have the disaster interest rates. For this disaster, home loans are for an interest rate for 1.563%, business loans 2.85%, nonprofit organizations 2%, and the term is up to 30 years. The requirements for the loans are eligibility. The damaged property must be in a declared parish, which is the case for Terrebonne. The credit history, applicants must have a credit history acceptable to SBA, and the repayment ability, the applicants must show the ability to repay all the loans. There is a collateral for physical loans over $25,000, and the same for economic injury. SBA will not decline a loan for lack of a collateral, but requires collateral if it is available. The restrictions are the loans are only for uncompensated losses that are not covered by insurance or other recoveries such as FEMA grants, reimbursement by another party, settlement of a lawsuit, etc. The applicants are not eligible if they have not complied with terms of previous loans. If someone had a loan before and they didn't keep the insurance or any obligation, they're not eligible this time. What they need to know, it's very important that people know that they have, homeowners and renters must register with FEMA. If FEMA refers them to the SBA, they must follow through, fill out their application. If they are approved, they have the choice to take or not the loan, or they may also take less money or more if they need more, and they can show proof of that. But if SBA cannot approve them a loan, in the case of homeowners and renters, we may refer them back to FEMA, and FEMA has other grants that they may be eligible for. So if homeowners and renters are referred to SBA and they don't fill out their application, the federal assistance stops right there. And it's very important for people to know that they must follow through. They fill out their application. If they are approved, they have the choice to take the loan or not. There are no obligations, no cost of any kind. And if SBA cannot approve them a loan, they may be referred to SBA and to FEMA, and FEMA has other grants, other type of grants that they may be eligible for. We have here a disaster recovery center at the Civic Center in Homa, and it is open every day, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we have our 1-800 number, 659-2955. Also, we have a page where people may apply. Everything can be done online. And another important thing is there is a deadline, and for physical damage, people must register before October 28th or apply for the SBA loan. And for economic injury, businesses have until May the next year. But right now, the deadline, the important deadline is October 28th. And we have to remind everyone that they must register with FEMA before 28 and apply with SBA. Once they are registered, if the deadline comes, they're still processing their loan, so there is no problem. And then they have 6 months to decide if they don't want to take it or if they want a different amount of money. So I'll be here if you have any question.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I had a resident who called who had to move out of an apartment complex because it was damaged, and he's, of course, trying to find any type of housing. He found an apartment, but he said, I don't have the money, the $1,600 to put the deposit in the last month. I can, pay the and I referred him to the SBA because I said, well, maybe the SBA could loan you that amount of money. Was that proper? I mean, is that...
Well, no, in this case it's FEMA. FEMA will help with the basic. If they are displaced or they need rental assistance, FEMA is the agency that would help
But he said
first.
he said it was denied FEMA.
He was denied FEMA.
And so I referred
Then,
him to
yes,
the SBA.
yes,
So-
they can apply for a loan, and usually we're trying to take 2 to 3 weeks to get them approved, and hopefully within 1 to 2 weeks we can close their loan and they will have their first disbursement. Right now at the Civic Center, we are doing a lot of closings. Last time I checked, they had 32 closings. Well, they had the documents ready to do the closings.
Mr. Michel, do you have an SBA question? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. Mr. Harding.
Hi, nice to see you, sir.
Is the mic on?
How's this?
Yes, good.
That's that right voice, I guess. We mentioned the insurance, okay, and the length of the loan is 30 years. What type of insurance is required?
Usually flood insurance,
Usually.
mostly here in this area. Yeah, flood insurance for sure.
Right.
But at the time of signing the loan, SBA will let you know what other type if you will need anything.
Right, and for
Yeah.
the duration of the loan.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
One more question in reference to Mr. Guidry. He asked the question that one of his constituents was denied FEMA. Then we go to the SBA. There's a situation also that if SBA does not approve what that person is actually applying for, then that person also has an opportunity to return back to FEMA, correct?
In most cases, SBA will refer them back to FEMA because FEMA has other type of grants that they could be eligible for, yes. And then FEMA also has other needs assistance programs that are like nonprofit organizations that will help them. But usually there are other type of grants that they could be eligible for if they are not approved for a loan with SBA.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to get Chris Pulaski up here, the Director of Planning and Zoning, to give y'all a report on the state temporary housing and the direct housing from FEMA. Chris?
Chris Pulaski, Director of Planning and Zoning, Terrebonne Parish. I've got a short PowerPoint here, just some general slides of the base camps and the state travel trailers, thanks, that have been deployed. So, wait, I went to sleep. Oh, okay. So this is an example of base camp. This is the first base camp to come online. This is the one in Chauvin at Klondike Road. So these base camps are put in place by GOSEP through their vendor. So we request them and tell them, the location, how many people. This is a 100-person camp. So GOSEP contracts it out to a particular vendor, and it comes with all the wraparound services. Like in this instance, is this a pointer in the middle? Yeah, okay. So in this instance, this is Klondike. This is Lower Bayou-Side Drive. This is the existing pavilion that the rec district had built, skate park. So they're utilizing the pavilion. Underneath that pavilion, that's where the dining tent is. You've got a recreation tent. You've got the administration tent where everybody checks in. You have a medical tent. For this location, this is the kitchen area. These are the restrooms, and these are restrooms here as well. You've got a mobile shower unit, and then all of these MASH tents are housing. They're 8-person tents because of COVID spacing requirements and so forth, versus, they could put, I think, they had mentioned they could put as many as 20 people if they really needed to. And then there's an ADA compliant tent over here. Staff for these facilities the vendor has their people, but they handle the operations. They handle any logistical issues that might come up. The state has also, through the Office of Community Development, has staffed each of these locations. So they run 12-hour shifts. So there's people there 24/7 to address any issues or questions that occupants might have or needs that they might have. Here's the camp in Montague. This is Montague Middle's just over here off the screen. This is the baseball field. This is where Entergy had their camp set up. This is the football field, so this is a 200-person camp. So you've got a large dining tent here, and then this is all the housing. It too has the wraparound services, mobile shower units, restrooms, that sort of thing. These all have 3 meals a day. And each vendor is a little bit different, so the layout's a little bit different because each site is different. But they sub out all that stuff to caterers and things like that. So this is the location in Dulac. The old Grand Caillou Middle is over here. There's the library in the background there. The gym is just across the street. Kind of a similar situation, except in this instance, instead of like individual MASH tents, they have a large housing tent that they've subdivided into smaller areas for men, women, families. And all of these are scalable, so they can adjust them if they need to. They can increase the capacity if it's needed and we request it. Right now, as of this morning at least, the one in Dulac here had 9 residents or 9 occupants. The one in Chauvin had just over 20, and then the one in Montague was right about 12 people. So Montague and Dulac opened Monday afternoon. Chauvin opened up Friday afternoon. Dulac's 100. In fact, they're all 100 except for Montague, which is 200. Now, I don't have a slide because it opens tomorrow afternoon, but there's a 100-person base camp being set up right now on Scott Lane behind Bayou Towers. That one's a little bit different because that particular vendor uses these modular units. It's almost the same size as a typical mobile home, but it's subdivided. It's like a duplex, basically. And they can put 4 people in each half, and the restrooms and the showers are built into those units. So that's being set up right now, but it should come online tomorrow at 1 p.m. There's no pre-registration requirement for these facilities. Anybody who's in need, they just show up and they get registered when they show up. Now, obviously, right now, we'd like to see the capacities increase because we know that there are still more people in these areas that in our opinion, seems like they would need immediate housing, living in their cars, or tents, or what have you. So it's just a matter of messaging out, just letting those folks know that these facilities are available. There's a lot of resources and assets that have been deployed, and we want to make sure that they're being utilized to the fullest.
Chris, is there a central clearinghouse that people go to and you assign which one, if they're not necessarily from Chauvin or if they're from the west side and they're homeless? Do they just pick one and go to it, or what do they do?
Well, the intention is, and the reason why we chose the sites we did was to at least get these set up in the general areas where the people in need are. So that's the intent. But it's not to say that if somebody from Dulac goes to the Montague or somebody from Shreve goes to the Dulac, it really doesn't matter. When they register, the system that they're registering with, the state has all of that integrated. So they know immediately, real time, when somebody shows up at a particular base camp. They know how many are here. So if one of them's at capacity, let's say, and they've got, 10 people lined up outside, they can look at the other camps and say, okay, well, you can go to Dulac, or, we have these openings at these other camps, and they can direct them there. These are basically intended to serve the same purpose as the shelters that we have had traditionally in the Homa area. All those, of course, have now been consolidated to that one location on Equity Boulevard.
Mr. Dove, is there anything did you want to add anything before we open it up to other questions?
No, just wanted to, yes, Chris, maybe you have a slide presentation on a temporary, on mobile, on a travel trailers. Are you
Yes,
fixing
sir.
to get to that?
Here we go.
Yeah, I want to ask a question when he's finished with that.
Okay, and then if the council's okay, we'll open it to questions after that. Go ahead.
Okay, so moving on to the GoSep travel trailers. So as of this morning, I counted 99 travel trailers in the Civic Center parking lot. So that is the staging area where GoSep, the state, is staging these travel trailers. So they're procuring them from all over, anywhere they can, and they're sending them down to out to the various parishes. So the first batch of travel trailers that you see in these photos, these are getting deployed to first responders, HPD who've been displaced, those folks. So these are just some general shots. These are individual sites, obviously not the group sites. So this is your typical travel trailer. I mean, the size of them varies, and obviously one of the questions that gets asked with the folks applying is how many people are in your household, so that they can then match the person up with the appropriate size trailer. I think that might be the last one. So we've got teams of people out in the field. We still have a couple of first responders left, and then we have all of the parish essential workers that we're working on right now. We have teams of people going out into the field. We have to go out and assess the damage on that person's home. We have to do that. We've got to document that. And the criteria to determine that assessment to ensure that they are indeed eligible for placement in one of these trailers is provided to us by the state. So we're sending our guys out there. They're looking at those shelters, and they're talking to the applicants, looking at those structures, and they're talking to the applicants with questions like, well, what is your current living situation? Because all of that comes into play. And then once we determine that it's eligible, it then goes to Aptum, which is the firm hired by the state to actually administer the hauling and installing of these travel trailers. So once we send the list of properties every day, there's a batch that's going out. We send it to Aptum and say, okay, guys, these are the sites that we've already vetted. So then they go out and make sure that logistically it'll fit. Okay, if this travel trailer that's been assigned to this person is so many feet, will it fit on the property? Can they tie into the existing utilities? Is the meter working, or do we need to get a tent pole installed? There's all those kinds of things. And then once that's done, then they contact the applicant and they set them up and basically give them the keys and let them roll. Now we have 99 trailers. We had, I think, 10 initially. Now we have another 99 in there. 3 others got deployed at the Civic Center too. But there's right now, they're coming in waves. And so to make sure that everything's done fair and equitably and distributed evenly amongst all the council districts like we've always discussed and presented with you guys, is we're essentially the list that came in, y'all know because y'all collected most of the names. It came in from all different directions. It's not a simple first come, first serve. There's no way to be able to even determine who came in. We have them. We have some that came in on our web portal, some that came in through emails. So what we've done is we've taken the list and we're just shuffling it, like at random. Just it takes all the names of all the people in each of the districts. It shuffles those around, so then there's no, okay, first come, first. No, everybody gets a fair shot at that. But then once we have each batch, then we go through and when I say batch, how many travel trailers do we have available? We're looking at each district, making sure that they get deployed out evenly in the districts, but we're also looking at contacting the residents saying, okay, well, what's your current housing situation? Because if we get into a situation where we have fewer trailers available than we have the need for, it comes into, all right, well, what is your current situation? And somebody who may be, they may not be living in their home, but they may be staying with family or friends versus somebody who's staying in their car or under a tent. I mean, their needs greater. So we're going to have to, that plays into it as well.
Mr. Duff?
Yeah, and I think Chris answered it. I want to make sure that the public understands and this council understands that Chris is being as fair as possible. And of course, he explained exactly what I was going to ask him to explain, so he did a good job of that. I want to add to that, we are working with a nonprofit right now who's going to supply housing, and it will be more at our option on this nonprofit that if someone doesn't qualify, and we think they should have qualified under GOSEF, under FEMA, that we can still get them housing. So we are presently working with someone, and I think this is right around the corner, so there is another option. Something else I want to add, and Ms. Nikita Gifton with the Housing Board was out at Senator Circle today giving out Section 8 housing, giving Section 8 housing vouchers, which are good anywhere throughout the United States. And basically, whatever they were paying in Senator Circle, due to their income, they will be paid. They can pay anywhere in the United States with Section 8 housing. And this is actually, the voucher is, the length of it is for the rest of their life, if that's what the program that they're in. So they handed out 200 today at Senator Circle. Senator Circle probably has 90% of the homes that won't, will have to be condemned or completely rebuilt, and maybe if not 100%. So it's a pretty bad situation down there. So, that actually HUD was out there with Nikita, giving out 200 vouchers today. And, the program that what Chris can tell you is we, as he said earlier, we will be doing investigation also. And we have that latitude with GOSEF that we can go back to them if for some reason FEMA's not allowing this person to stay in, and there's no doubt they should have a travel trailer. So I think the program's going good, led by Mr. Chris Pulaski, and I think he explained it well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. Mr. Michel?
So you said there's 99 about right now, minus 3, I think that went out like that?
No, there's 99 in the staging parking lot. The 3 that I mentioned at the Civic Center, those are on the other side. So there's some people in the first responder essential worker list that were renters, and so rather than having them go into the group sites, we were able to place them at the Civic Center.
And so is there any estimation of after the first responders and the critical employees, parish employees, how many are going to be left of that 99?
I mean, some of the employees' numbers were still coming in today, but it's not 99. So I think we're going to be into the gen pop pretty quick. General population, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, and so what's the long-term plan? How long can they keep them?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that because there were a couple of points I forgot to make. So these are the GOSEP trailers. So these are state trailers. These are not FEMA trailers. I know everybody refers to it as FEMA trailers, but technically they're the state's. So the state has designed this program to essentially go out for about 6 months because they're trying to get this program to fill the gap until the FEMA program ramps up. I think in the past and other disasters, this may have come in the form of, say, hotel vouchers or other things, but without hotels to give vouchers to, this was the solution. Now, the criteria that the state has established is, I'm not saying it's identical, but it's similar and in line with the criteria of eligibility that FEMA has. Because the intent here is that if somebody is in one of these units and their repairs to their home are still occurring, their home is not livable at the end of that 6-month period, well, the intent is that they would roll over into the FEMA program. Maybe not necessarily 6 months, they could roll into the FEMA program even sooner. But that way they're not, taking somebody who obviously needs to stay in that travel trailer and asking to leave just because 6 months has passed. No, they would transition over into the FEMA program. But if FEMA, for some reason, says, oh, well, I'm sorry, they're not eligible for our program, that's what Parish President Dove was just mentioning. We have the ability to go back to GOSEP and maybe work on a case-by-case basis for those folks. Group sites. No pictures of group sites yet because we're still waiting on the state to come back with the selected locations for those group sites. I mean, we've given them some suggestions. We've kind of steered them where we think might be beneficial areas or easy to get up and running, but they still have to make that determination. And the same goes for FEMA. FEMA's been has had people down here looking at group sites for their programs as well, but we haven't had those selections yet. So that's why we're focusing right now on the individual sites so we can get those going. I am pleased to say that with respect to some of the past and traditional rules that FEMA has placed on their direct housing program and GOSEP's following in step, they've modified some of those requirements or policies. For example, if you're a renter and you don't have property that you could place a travel trailer on, but you do qualify for one, if you have the ability to place that travel trailer, say you have a friend or family in the area and they have space available and they agree to do it, you could put their address down and Aptum will go and look at that site, and as long as that property owner is willing to sign a right of entry agreement and all that, then you could go there. You don't have to go into the group site. But the group sites are there for those folks who that's just not an option, right? So that's a good positive, I think, as far as what they're doing. And then they also have they've been allowing us, and other parishes too, requirements like special flood hazard areas. I mean, all these get strapped and anchored down, but as far as, elevating, like if a modular unit or a mobile home is selected as the direct housing type for a FEMA program, I mean, we're talking 18 months, maybe 24. They're not requiring, I mean, they ask us, we're giving you the ability, if you agree, we'll agree, you can waive that elevation requirement for the time period, which is fine with us because actually FEMA won't install a mobile home if the foundation has to be 52 inches or higher than 52 inches because now you're getting into engineered foundations. And we all know we've got base flood elevations of 12, 14, 16 feet. So I'm glad that they were letting us do that, but I just want to say that at the end of FEMA's programs, oftentimes they'll offer the unit to the occupant for purchase. And I've got no problem with that. But what I'm going to be working with FEMA and we're going to keep a close tab on is before that unit is sold, that occupant, if that's their intention, they will need to bring it into compliance with our floodplain ordinances and all that stuff. So, we don't want to miss that opportunity and then we're stuck with a non-compliant structure in the floodplain. So we're going to be working with FEMA to make sure that doesn't happen. So.
Okay. You were talking about the vouchers earlier, the vouchers, how does somebody get a voucher? If they have to be Section 8 right now to be able to get a voucher? Does it matter where they're Section 8, or is it just Senator Circle, or is it Bayou Towers, is it where?
I'm not involved in that program, so I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I can answer it also.
Don't
Yeah,
go over
the program today, what was happening today is strictly through the Housing Authority. And John may want to add to this, of course. And the Housing Authority is going to do the Section 8 vouchers for anyone that they've been dealing with. One is Senator Circle, the other one is the residents of the Bayou Towers. And so they will start approaching the Bayou Towers residences next to give them the Section 8 vouchers. But what was happening today is only for Senator Circle, and then it's going to be only for Bayou Towers. But it will, like I said, John may want to add to it. It will become available. And one other thing I want to add to what he said, I met with Tony Robinson, who is the director of Region 6 for FEMA, and I've asked him on behalf of Terrebonne Parish that at the end of these travel trailers, how can we get them to the ones that are presently staying in them? And he is very open. It's not a done deal to donating them. And he used an example of Catholic Charities. The federal government cannot just give it to an individual, but they can donate it to, and he only used that as an example, Catholic Charities, who can in turn donate it to the people that have it. So anyone who has trailers, it's in their best interest to keep it up, keep it as well as they can, because there's a good possibility, and that's one thing my administration is working for, at the end of the day, that these people end up with these trailers that's in front of their home as they speak. And like Chris is talking about, if they keep them as a residence, they have to elevate them. If they decide to take them and use them as a travel trailer, it's a different story. Thank you.
And just a point, I don't think you can use a travel trailer as a residence, am I right?
Right.
So-
In the
Temporary.
case of a travel trailer, the
Yeah,
elevation
so
requirements
eventually
wouldn't apply
they
because
would transition into housing.
it's a road-ready
It's
thing.
just
in 24
temporary,
hours.
yes.
Mr. Navy, is there anything you wanted to add about the question of the Senator Circle? Are you almost finished, Mr. Michaud?
Almost,
Okay, well, go ahead and finish.
okay. The temporary residences behind Bayou Towers, for example, if there's a single person who's living in Bayou Towers, and they request to go in there, then they will be put in there with 3 other people?
Yes.
In each segment?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. And just to reiterate, after the 2 categories of primary need is done, everyone else will be evenly by council district and completely random lottery therein.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Navy?
Chris, I have several questions while you were talking. The travel trailers, too. I was just curious about them. Are they ADA compliant trailers, travel trailers? Could someone with a disability or something actually get up on those trailers, the steps or whatever? I'm just asking, I don't know.
I don't think any of the ones that I saw in the parking lot are, but that's an excellent question that,
Okay.
I'll get with GOSEP and find out.
And the reason why
That shouldn't preclude somebody from being eligible
No,
for a
no,
travel trailer.
Well, not that aspect of it. I was just wondering because we're talking about elderly people, especially what Jerry Michelle was talking about from Bayou Tower. They need that type of compliance, to be honest with you. So I was just wondering, how could we actually address the elderly or the ones that are handicapped or something of that nature to actually get on top, get on those steps of those trailers? So that's a good question that I would like,
I
answer.
will
but-
get to the bottom of that.
Huh? Go ahead.
Before previous hurricanes, when they brought these FEMA trailers down these bayous, the companies that came in and installed little porches that had handrails on them so they could get
Okay,
into them.
that's
So
good.
just
They could get 'em.
I didn't
So-
want to interrupt you. but-
So, no, that's the case that you may want to look at too.
Yeah, I know that, for example, the Scott Lane Base Camp site, that vendor has the ability to install on those, because that's the one with those modular units. So
Right.
they do have the ability, if they have a resident come in and register, they can modify, they have the equipment on site to modify that
And that's something we probably
Yep.
need to promote to the public, to let them know that too. Other area, well, I got several questions. The other question I have is for when you started talking about 16, 18 months down the line, and that, you know, travel trailers could be permanent. Will that be a aspect of you changing the zoning? You know, we have zone areas that certain aspects of the community, so I'm just asking, wondering if that was.
Yeah. Well, we knew that was coming.
Okay.
So long before GOSEP, the state, long before FEMA came to us with these housing programs, we got with Parish President Dove and said, okay, we need to issue an executive order. I mean, I think you all are familiar with the standard executive order that goes out waiving permit fees, not permits. Okay. We did a similar situation where we amended through executive order the zoning to allow for these travel trailers. We set a date at that time of April 2022, April 1st, but you know, we'll probably look to extend that. That was just a date we had picked out at that time, but like I said, that we did that before FEMA or the state showed up to even talk about direct housing. But we're definitely going to allow that to happen as long as these programs are in effect. But once the programs are over, then it goes back to business as usual, zoning-wise.
Okay, and moving back to the conversation you had about in Mechanicsville, that was something that was actually planned about 2 weeks ago for the Mechanicsville gym. I actually met with FEMA out at the Mechanicsville gym when they actually walked through Mechanicsville and the Senator Circle areas, looking at residents that may still be there and try to get them to apply then. So they came up with a different plan, and I talked to the field office from New Orleans who said that's the direction they wanted to go to get those vouchers. So that's actually been in the plan, but just like everything else, it takes time because Washington, D.C. field office had to approve all this. And then when they got involved, then they approved this process to allow this to happen. So this is how this came to fruition. So I just wanted to explain that it's going to be Senator Circle and Bayou Tower. They did the Senator Circle first, I think, because some of the controversial talk that was going on and people putting, you know, information out there and actually misleading the public to some aspect. I think there was some concerns there, so they tried to move fast on that issue, especially why, you know, they was all displaced, just like the Bayou Tower. So it wasn't an exclusion factor, it is an inclusion process. They have to do one at a time. So they're probably going to be down here in the Senator Circle until they get all those people's vouchers, and then they're going to do Bayou Tower. So, you know, there's no hero, you know, faction here, it's just about trying to do what's best for the people. Okay, the other thing is, you asked about how many trailers. I would like to know, what is the overall? If the overall count's going to be 1,500? I know y'all said something like that.
That's a number that we heard from the beginning, but I think that's still a low number for our needs.
Okay.
So I can appreciate the challenge that the state, is facing, considering that we're one of, all the parishes that they're addressing. So I think they're gonna, okay, guys, we gave you these numbers, we're gonna honor these numbers, but, we're not stopping at 50, if we still need more, we're gonna be asking for more.
Okay, that's cool, that's great. The other issues are, when you was talking about the camps and stuff like that, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people, I understand the Bayou community, that's a long way to go for people to go, but in the inner city, if you have those base camps or whatever you have, it's good to know, and the public needs to know that you're not excluded. You're included no matter where you're coming from. So if you live in Gray and you want to come to a base camp that's in the Homer or near the high ride or something, you can come. If the public was asking about that, I have gotten some calls on that, but they actually can. So I think that's good that we're making that clear to them. Another thing, the process of the trailers, I wanted to ask that. The question is, and I'm getting calls on that too, so are we putting information out to the public, the direction on how we're going to do the selection? Because now they're calling and saying, after we sent those numbers out, we got a lot of calls. I know I'm getting a lot of calls. Well, how is the selection going to go? Am I going to get one? Or did the parish never call me yet? I gave you my information, John, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So what information we're going to put out to the public to explain that hey, look, it's a process. We have to go out there and look at your home. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. We got a team in place. It's going to be done. And that's not getting out there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we've been collecting names for, what, 2.5 weeks? More? Time is irrelevant right now. I can't think what day of the week it is sometimes. But we've been collecting these names for a while, but it was just Monday that we really got the direction from the state as to the procedures that we're going to have to go through with their consultant, with Aptum. So we've been working so quickly just trying to get them out there that we haven't had time to stop and really put together that public information. So that's something that we'll get to work on so we can push it out. Everyone who's registered, I mean, like, we've got your information. It's going to take time to get back through and contact all the people who, when we get into after we do the shuffling of the names, I mean, we're basically going to be working it, as the trailers come in and are available. So, like I said, doing it evenly through all the districts.
I think Danny or someone mentioned this question, Gerald, Danny. That other concern would be when we finish with that aspect of it and go into the council districts, how would that be distributed out to the public? Is that going to be a certain, manner that you're going to handle that, or, because, and the reason why I'm saying that, in due respect to the bayous, they really received a lot of damage. I can understand the fact that the bayou community really should be one of the first ones to actually get, and I'm not putting anyone down or anything like that, because everybody received damage, but it was catastrophic on that end. But after that, what's going to be the process that everybody starts saying, seeing travel trailers in their district?
Well, having seen the list, I mean, I can tell you that, it's very evident where the damage is. I mean,
Where my list?
This is not the list you want to be winning on. Let me put it that way. But we do have some winners as far as that goes. But yeah, and of course, once we get through, the districts that they have the smaller numbers, then instead of 9 districts, we're spreading it amongst 8.
Okay.
But we're just trying to be fair and equitable all the ways around.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I didn't know the process, how we was handling that. I don't know if anybody else had to, you all knew, okay? I didn't know the process, so. No, I didn't. Oh, nobody knows, okay, yeah, so that's what's curious about that, because, the questions are being asked to us, and I don't, people are thinking, and I'm just being honest, I'm being humble about everything, and being humble to the public. People are asking us, like, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard anything. What am I gonna do? What's the process? What's happening? And I got to skirt around everything because I don't want to put anybody on the hook. Because I love you, but I don't want to put everybody on the hook. And it's like I don't know what to tell them, and that's why I'm asking for some direction.
Well, Earl mentioned Nicole earlier. She's been great helping us get information out. So I'll be getting with her. I imagine it'll be crafted in a sort of a Q&A type of format. So we know the questions that people are going to have. I mean, I think it's just apply some common sense, and what the kinds of questions people are going to have. So that's how we'll craft the information, how we put it out. I know I've done a couple of Facebook videos with Nicole and stuff about this, so we'll just keep building on that.
And that's my last comment. We got our own HT, TV
Oh yeah,
station.
that's
Yeah, we got our own TV. You do that every, like you were doing all those promotions about floodgates and levees and all that kind of stuff. I think we need to be promoting this stuff too on those stations. So that would be a good target too, because cable began to come on for everybody. So, I want to come specifically for that meeting and ask those questions. Okay.
You hear that, Brian? Get ready.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. Mr. Babin?
Yeah, a lot of the questions I had I'm sorry, it's on. A lot of the questions I have been answered, but I'd like to make just maybe a few statements. I think it's wonderful, and it's kind of alluding to what John just said, that we want to make this equal amongst all of the districts, okay? But I think once we do, we need to go on need rather than just equality, okay, amongst the districts. And as you said, look, I know that the city had a lot of apartment complexes that went down. So you have a lot of people that are displaced. We have a lot of people, but I feel like maybe they're living somewhere else right now. we have a lot of people down the bayous that their homes are just shattered, okay? So in any event, listen, we don't know the system. I think the system is evolving. It's kind of fluid right now. All I ask, and I think it's along with John saying, we get the questions every day, 15, 20, 30 calls a day. We don't want to give out misinformation. So I guess what we're asking is the more information y'all can provide to us on a daily basis, the better we can disseminate it out to the people that are asking us the questions, okay?
Right.
So, and I'm not saying anybody's doing a bad job. I'm just saying that because we get the calls, if we give out bad information, it's not good at all. So one of the things I think people have a misconception, and I keep referring to them as tent cities, and I shouldn't, but is that they have to go in there and stay in there.
Oh.
They don't. If people are working, they live in there, they can go to work. If they are working on their boat or their home, they can go do that in the day's time, okay?
Yeah.
I did, and John, I think you would like this one, I did get with my school board member and told him that the administrative office in each one of these should be asking what school these children go to that are staying in there so we can have the buses pick them up. And they are going to pick them up right in front of the school. But because that's important. We want the people in a place, but we also want those children in school as much as possible.
That's a great point. I mean, these base camps, I mean, that's how they're designed. Now, they do have rules. They have rules
Sure.
that you have to follow. And it has a curfew, 10 p.m. That's standard curfew. But I know for certain at Chauvin Base Camp, they have an occupant there whose work shift, they don't get home till 11. And they know that. And so they've made accommodations for that, and they'll continue to do that. AT&T deployed phone charging stations and Wi-Fi hotspots at all these things, so people can work on their SBA loan application. Kids can do homework. So they make accommodations for all that, and then they also have things to keep people occupied. They have rec tents, that have. I know that location has a ping pong table, for example.
Yeah, the one in Dulac, the one where they have the families, there's toys and different
Yeah.
things for the children in there. There's a big screen TV, if you will, in the dining hall. The like you said, the chargers for the phones, the internet, the whole bit. But the key is I have one particular man that can't sleep in a bed, all right? He's been sleeping in his car because he could recline in the car. Well, Father Antonio at Holy Family Church is going to buy him a recliner, and I got with the people at the thing, and I said, can he have a recliner? And they said, of course. They're more than accommodating is what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
okay? So I think there may have been a misconception, and I think it's starting off slow because people have gotten into a certain routine, even though it was living in a tent or living in the car, and some of them are a little bit skeptical about leaving their property. But I'm asking everybody that needs it to please go at least check this out so you can see how well run it is, how safe it is, because it's 24-hour security.
Yep.
It's all ADA compliant, or at least on the one in Dulac, okay? And now I know, I saw Mr. Harding's today, and it's not, but it can be adapted. But they're trying to make this as comfortable a home for people who are displaced as they can. So please, I'm begging with the people down the bayous, in town, please go and take a look at this because and the food is fabulous, okay, from what I hear. I hadn't it, but I mean, they give a good breakfast in the morning, a box lunch, and then a big meal at nighttime. And that's a lot more than, I mean, look, we've been feeding a lot of people down the bayous and in town, but that's a lot more than most had before. So they are family-oriented, they're children-oriented, and we're trying to take in the school situation as well as the housing situation. So please, just keep us informed so we can pass it on to our constituents.
Sure.
Thank you, Christopher.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. Chris, for one thing, on the tent camps, I didn't hear you mention it, but they also have clothes washing facilities.
Oh, yes.
So they will wash and fold your clothes for each individual in there. And also, the one I visited
talking to the director of it, you know, the tents are set up as 8-man tents due to COVID restrictions, but if you got a 10-member family come in, they'll make arrangements to put all 10 people in one tent.
Oh, yeah.
So they won't split families up because of the 8 number restrictions.
Good point.
So, and I'm assuming they're doing that at all of them. The one I went to, I actually went to one in Klondike. My next question is, how many of the total I guess you call them applicants, but total requests for temporary trailers did we get turned in so far to the parish? You have that number?
That we turned in to the state to deploy?
That we turned in, that were emailed to you guys, collaboratively together. What's the total number of people requesting FEMA trailers that you, as of today?
Guys, I mean, we're still scrubbing that list. We're still finding duplicates, so that I don't have a hard number. But I would say the total number of households is pushing 5,000.
5,000. That's the kind of number. I know you can't be exact.
Yeah, it kind of.
Yes, I mean.
And we still have some.
They're still coming in. I still get requests today. Yeah, definitely. So that was my question, and then naturally, you pretty much answered my question about the total number of expected trailers. You know, it's 1,500 maybe more, maybe less. And okay, expound on John's question about the process of distributing the trailers. If District X has 25 requests for trailers, Y District has requests of 325 or 350, and you've got 10 trailers to give away, and these are the only 2 districts, is it going to work at percentage-wise, or is District X with 25 requests going to get 5 of those, and District X with 350 is going to get 5?
I mean,
what's your plans in that area? You follow?
Yeah, I follow what you're saying. I'll start by saying, you know, our system isn't necessarily perfect.
Well, no,
So,
definitely not.
and we can, if I am open to ideas, as long as we're in agreement that it is still a fair and equitable distribution. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, if we go number to number, if we deal in percentages, then maybe we'll get more deployed into the areas that are more in need. If that, or have, let me put it this way, have a greater number of people in need. I don't want to make one district's needs great. But you're out of your home. You can't live in your home. You can't live in your home. It doesn't matter where in the parish you live.
But just for equality.
That's a great
myself,
suggestion.
Okay, that's pretty much all I got. Thanks a lot.
Ms. Domingue.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome to the world of being a social worker. Yeah, honorary title right now. My fellow council members, they answered a lot of my questions. To go off of what you just said about how we're going to do the first responders first, and then I want to make a suggestion that possibly we add to the top of the list families with small children. We have a lot of small children who are displaced and are in very bad situations right now, and those children need to be put in stable home environments. A couple things that I heard that I want to mention, just because a family maybe have a roof over their head right now because they were living in an apartment, now they're living with family members, does not necessarily mean that they're in a safe environment. We've got a lot of people who are experiencing domestic violence. We have a lot of children, and we have a lot of families who are in areas that may be more prone to drug use. And so just because they have a house over their head doesn't mean that they are in a safe environment. So when you are doing that assessment, make sure that that's part of your questioning is, do you feel safe where you're at right now? Because I can promise you the answer is no, because I've been taking calls every day and meeting with people at the clinic every day, and the answer is no. So just because they're not in a tent doesn't mean that they're not safe.
Right.
And then the last thing I want to mention is, I'm sorry, I had one more question. Has anybody been denied?
No.
Okay, I've had people call and say, well, so-and-so said that I'm going to be denied. And I said, well, who's so-and-so? And so what I'm encouraging
I would
people
like to
do-
meet that person.
Yeah, and what I'm encouraging people is if they haven't heard from administration, or they haven't heard from one of us, then don't listen to whoever they're talking to, because we haven't denied anybody. Lastly, I'm getting a lot of calls from people who maybe were given, or were placed in a hotel in a different state by FEMA. And then every so often FEMA comes up and says, well, we're going to evict you in 2 days. But then they reverse course and they say, oh, no, well, we can't, we're going to extend that. If anybody has a phone call like that from FEMA, they need to call either Steve Scalise's office or Garrett Graves' office. I've spoken to those two gentlemen, and they are going to handle that aspect of it. And so we're not going to have people displaced, because honestly, there's nowhere else for them to come back to right now until we can figure something else out. So if anybody does have those phone calls, they need to call Steve Scalise's office or Garrett Graves' office. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Thank you. There were several things that we want to cover. We had some conversation. I think I actually had a conversation with basically everyone that sits up here, that are my colleagues. I think Steve Trusclair asked my first question, out of all the data that we have been collecting over the last month or so, to find out how many people that would be possibly in need of emergency or temporary housing. Of course, the number of 1,500 seems to be rather low compared to 5,000. The so-called tents that we actually spoke of, and we actually seen the census of there, you know what I mean, the one's 12, one's 20, so we're looking at 80, over 100 and so. That seems to be a concern of mine too, because I think, like Danny said, Mr. Daniel Babin said that, you know what I mean, people don't really realize the conditions of these tents or camps. I think the term camp might be more appropriate, because when people hear tents, they kind of shy away from it, even though I didn't make no more than 2 trips down those bayous. They are concerned about their land. I'm very appreciative to what's being built behind the Bayou Towers area. The ADA is concerned, but then there are some circumstances as a whole I need to consider, and hopefully my colleagues and the people that's within government would actually have some thought. I understand the concept of showing up, because there's a lack down those bayous. I am concerned that actually both ways, whereas the type of facility behind Bayou Towers is slightly different from these camps. And there have been a lot of people trying to get bad information from people, they say, the naysayers. Bad information is bad, worse than no information at all. So I'm dealing with the concept of people within the urban society, and the possibility of presenting to my colleagues and to the rest of the administration is that we're looking at the shelter that has 102 people as just being reported. The facility behind Bayou Towers will house 100 people. And the thought would be those that would be capable to moving in there can come to a more personal environment at that location. But then first come, first serve will kind of knock that out if they're applying that way. The other thought that I had, if they had full bunk beds in at that particular facility. Or you can break it down into one full-size bed and 2 bunk beds. It's very possible, like some families are living right now on top of each other, you can get 6 people there. So we look at school-age kids, whether you want to take them totally out of their environment, bring them to another place and have to go all the way back across town to register for school and things like that. So it is a consideration that we have talked about, whereas we're either going to take the situation at Bayou Towers and try to put the people from Bayou Towers in there, but then on first come, first served, that knocks that out.
Yeah.
So as we go on, hopefully we can get more facilities, and we see how this facility can start to operate and what's the demand for it tomorrow when it first opens up. That was a question in reference to Section 8. Section 8 is not only applied at Bayou Towers or Senator Circle. Section 8 could be in Summerfield, it can be my next door neighbor, it could be anywhere. The voucher can be used anywhere within the state. So it's not really just for Senator Circle and Bayou Towers. That's the answer to a question. These travel trailers that we're getting in, right? Originally, my thought was, and it was brought out, that you have to be a property owner. We covered that when FEMA had made modifications, but then we have state trailers. But the modifications is then we have circumstances where owners, and now I'm hearing that you can put it on someone else's property. But it might put a little hole in the fact that, you know what I mean, maybe Mr. Amadi may not have had much damage in his district, and they want to actually place that in this district, help dirt out with his district. But, like Ms. Domingue said, just because someone is living in an apartment complex, they may have need, so now we have more skin in the game, whereas now, because Mr. Guidry is my friend or my family member, I may not have actually qualified originally. Now, the man that lives in Mr. Amadi's district has an opportunity to get a trailer and put it on Mr. Guidry's property. So it seems as if that the system that we have to really look at all aspects of it. We're looking at people being displaced and gone all over the country, and I said in the last council meeting, I want as many people in Terrebonne Parish to stay in Terrebonne Parish. It disrupts a lot, families. It also has to do with whether you're working, you're not working. It has a lot to do with district in reference to voting. We don't know the length of time that we're going to have that. So as we go on, those are some possibilities that we have to look at. These travel trailers or any other trailers that we actually have. So we put them on a facility, put it on a piece of property. We tie into electricity, or we tie into the sewer system. Or we can actually go with the person that owns the property, and there's a bill to be paid with that also then. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's another thing that we actually have to look at.
But the program doesn't pay for that.
Right, and that's what I want the people out there to know, that, you know what I mean, you're going to pay that bill for your water, sewage, and all those other things too. There are a couple other things, and there are some more lights, and maybe I'll come back, because I just want to put those things out there. I had one more thing. I'm concerned about those people in that shelter, and see what we can actually do with the 102 that we have, and then I have a capacity to actually.
Well, I'd like to comment on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize that out of all of those base camps, I think Scott Lane has the potential to be at capacity quick. So we've already begun discussions with not only the contractor, the vendor for the state, but we're looking at the locations. I mean, it seems from a logistics standpoint, it's easier to place additional trailers at that site versus starting a whole other site from scratch. But they are scalable. I mentioned that earlier. So we have begun discussions about how can we increase the capacity at Scott Lane, and then what are our alternative locations, and we've got a couple of those selected, Williams being one of them. But they overbuilt that Scott Lane in terms of the infrastructure. I mean, they've got 2 sets of electrical meters, they've got 2 sewer taps, so they certainly have the ability to go bigger. And it's, they've already mowed up. All they need to do is bring in additional housing trailers. But that's not something that we have to go through the state process. We have to request that from GOSEP. But before I even had, and that's something that we have to discuss, but if we decide we need to do it, I know that the contractor is capable to get it deployed very quickly because they're not far.
Well, and that forces me publicly to say that we have to include me in that situation because my people are directly affected by that, and the community that I live in might be directly affected that. Now, my thoughts were to perhaps maybe William Street, perhaps in other areas, which you can actually not actually bombard a particular community with so many massive number of people. There are Terrebonne Parish got property all over the place. No offense to the tents and stuff like that. I do believe that situation, if it can actually branch off, you can take a whole trailer and change the dynamics and the ideology and the someone being comfortable with a situation like that. So I think we can actually consider that to go a little bit farther down the line for a better option for long term. Because older gentleman and his wife was in the Red Cross. They're suffering from anxieties. The old lady's on oxygen. The man is rather frail and he's on medicine. It's difficult to have these people in a dormitory mass shelter like that, and they're not going to, it's going to wear them down. So, I'm just saying to not only just my colleagues and the administration, we have to totally look at this. We just can't just throw it out there, and just let it fall, and the chips lay where they fall. So and look, I must say, besides all of us up here in the administration, I'm gonna single you and Earl Hughes out as some of the hardest working people. I'm not gonna forget about you, Mike. Some of you guys, some of you guys are some of the
long list
hardest
of
working guys
those.
that are here. You know what I mean? So, and I understand the task that you actually have is whatever we do, nobody's gonna be satisfied. But then please consider those options, and perhaps in our conversations going down the road, my colleagues, we can actually find out with the communication through the administration and to you guys that we can actually work out the best solution for the citizens of Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
I think the general public can see that because of the lengths of this conversation, this is by far the #1 issue in almost every one of our districts is housing. Mr. Michel.
Thank you. Just a few short issues. First of all, about the base camps. Just to add to what Mr. Trosclair said, the laundry facilities can either be self-serve or they'll do it for you.
I think the base camps, they do it for you. Like you check in, you get a little slip and then they, when they're done, you sign back for them.
If you're sure of that, I'll concede that.
I know that's how Montague's doing it, and I know that's how Chauvin does it.
Because I read it differently somewhere
Dulac.
else. That's why I read it somewhere.
Well, maybe the confusion might be lying here. This is Dulac's site. Maybe about a week before the first equipment started showing up, Big Mike had placed this blue shipping container right here in front of the gym. That is laundry facilities, self-service.
Okay.
So, I mean, I recall seeing like one thing, a laundry detergent, but I would advise, if you have it, bring it with you. But that is unrelated to the base camp, but it is there.
Okay. And also, just Mr. Trosclair also reminded me that the tents are also air conditioned, even though they're tents, they're air conditioned. Okay.
Yes.
Second item, and I think it was Mr. Trosclair talking about this too, the the disparity between the districts, my district has a much less need than some of the districts down the bayou. And one thing to consider is if they're elderly, especially if they're disabled, or if there are children involved, to me, that has to take priority no matter what district you're in. That, within the confines. And I'm just throwing it out like they were throwing out, so you can just have that for consideration. I certainly would not want a 40-year-old couple who have no children to get a trailer before somebody else who had children or who were elderly and needed it more. So that's, just wanted to mention that. Also, I have a question about, suppose somebody lives down the bayou and they have a place in my district for, to put a trailer for themselves. Would they go under that down the bayou district, or would they go under my district?
Well, I mean, from what I'm talking about, they're the down the bayou district. Where they're putting it is really irrelevant.
Okay, well, let me add one more question then. What if they want to put it on the Lafourche side of Bayou Blue?
Now, that's a really good question, because we have that happening already, where we have some folks who live in Lafourche Parish but work for Terrebonne Parish. So for those folks, we're going to be talking with Lafourche Parish, my counterpart there, to sort out, okay, well, whose trailer is being used here.
Let me know what happens with that, because there is a friend of mine who, he's not an employee or anything. He's completely lost his home and is hoping to be able to get a trailer, but would like to put it at his daughter's property on the Lafourche side of Bayou Blue. Okay, so the next item, Mr. Harding was talking about the electric bills. If they put it on their property, they're going to tie in, and it's going to be their electric bill. But the positive side of that is, in all likelihood, it'll be less than their house electric bill was. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And finally, can you let us know when and from what district someone was placed or denied?
Yeah, I think once we get into our groove and these things start, we kind of get into autopilot in terms of the process and the procedure, I think we'll be able to push that type of information out on a daily basis.
Okay, all right.
It might be a day in the rears.
No,
It might be reflective of this
sure.
is what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, thank you so much, Chris.
Sure.
I just feel for y'all. Y'all have so much to do, and I appreciate you more than you know.
Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things, Chris. One, just on the Scott Lane, those trailers have 5 individual units in it.
5?
So it's not a duplex,
Okay.
it's 5 individual. No. It's 5. And I've gotten a lot of calls from teachers and medical personnel, whereas one instance, the gentleman, he's staying in Slidell, but now that school's open, he has to leave his family, come down here and stay with a buddy or something to teach. So I don't know if the school board had contacted y'all. I know we're looking at the essential government workers, but just consider, take that in consideration, the teachers and nurses, because, we want to make sure that that's filled as well. That's all that I have. I like everything that everybody else asked, so I didn't have to ask so much.
If I may, so that area, this is Dolphin Street, this is Cross Street. So this is where Energy was set up. Matt Rookard with TITA has been working with the Bayou Community Foundation, and they're actually putting in another
Camp.
group site, but it's for medical personnel, I think chiefly from the Jabert Medical
Yeah, 'cause they're the
that,
only one
I think
really
it's
open now.
residents, like surgery residents and internal medicine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, good. Thank God for that.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. Y'all are doing a great job.
Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Most of all my questions got answered. Chris, thank y'all for what y'all doing. I know it's a big undertaking, but just make sure that these people know that Dirk Gidry don't have to make a decision on who gets a camper trailer or not, because I know me, Danny, and Steve are gonna have to go through this, and wherever I'm going, they're asking me when I'm getting it, or they're trying to make me jump them ahead of somebody else. So whatever y'all do, if y'all do a little deal on TV or you put it out on
Yeah.
Facebook or something. Make sure some kind of way you let them know that us three councilmen are not responsible for who gets one and who doesn't get one, because it's not gonna be cute, so.
Right.
But I appreciate that, Steve. Thank you. I mean, Chris, thank y'all for what y'all doing, and I know it's a big undertaking, and I know the 1,500 is not enough. We need 5,000 or 6,000 of them, because when you're gonna start getting a few of these in, people that are homeless or that are working on their homes, they're gonna be sending in your name. So, you know, I'm pretty sure your numbers are gonna grow a lot faster than 5,000. But thank y'all for what y'all doing, man.
Sure.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned it already, because you just mentioned here that something else is going up under TITA. We're not bound to just the tent cities, I keep using that word and I know that's wrong, that we have right now. We could possibly have more. I mean, I gave you another location in, around Ashland
Yeah.
North that probably could service a lot more people up there, you know.
It's hard to justify placing additional base camps
now.
when our numbers are low.
Yeah, just low,
So
correct.
if we want to get more, then the first thing we all
Yeah.
need to be doing together is getting that
Getting
word out,
people in
getting
there.
more, get those numbers
Correct.
up.
And that's what we're gonna, I mean, we've been talking about that, and that's what we're gonna have to do. But we
Yeah.
have to build a confidence in these people and let them know what the parameters of this place is, in terms of that they can go to work, they can go shrimping, they
Mm-hmm.
can do whatever. This is a place for them to be able to put their head on a pillar at nighttime and be safe. And that's
Right.
what we're trying to do.
It's basic essentials. It's
Yeah.
a shelter, but place to sleep, place to eat,
Sure,
place to wash your
sure.
clothes. And I'll wrap up, but the information that we're pushing out on Facebook, we'll push it out again, because when we announce the openings of these locations, and we'll be doing this tomorrow for
Right.
Scott Lane, we want people to know what they're gonna get when they get there, what to be expecting. And things like parking. I mean, some of these sites, especially like Dulac and Scott Lane, those
It's
are
limited, yeah.
those are very tight sites. So we're asking, limit your house to one car per household. That's preferred. Also, there's no place to store valuables, so keep that in mind. Luggage, if you can bring one suitcase and one personal item like a purse or a backpack or whatever, just remember there are laundry facilities, so you can
Right.
you can wash clothes, and like you said, you can go back home
Right.
and do that if
You
your
brought
stuff
up
is
you
there.
brought up a good point. The laundry facilities in the camps are just for the people in the camps. They're not for the general
Right.
public. As you mentioned, Senator Facey has put one in Dulac.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put President Dove on the spot, but if we could, right now it's being run off of a generator. So it creates a problem in having to get diesel down there. If there's any way.
I talked to him about that.
If there's any way that we can hardwire it into the gym, because the recreation department said they have no problem with that, okay? And it's about 150 feet from the facility to the fuse box if we could get that done, that's doing a great service for the people in the community that are living in homes that may have lost washers and dryers, okay? So a lot of people are doing that. Janie Voisin is kind of in charge of that. She's at Ellender High School, I think, or maybe the middle school. But they're doing a great job with that. So if we as a parish could help that out, Senator Facey's willing to leave that down there for as long as he needs, and the rec district is willing to let them tie into their utilities. If we can just get the connection from there to there, it would make it a lot easier for a lot of people, so.
Yep, I talked to the senator about that Monday.
Okay, good, because he and I spoke again last night. Thank you, sir.
And Chris, now that these are open, of course, I'm going to go through my list, and all those people who are telling me that they're living in their vehicles and things, I'm going to call them and explain to them. I tried to get them to go to the community shelters at the auditorium, but they didn't want to be in that setting. But this setting may be good. But one concern they're going to have is they're going to say, if I go there, does that mean I won't be able to get the travel trailer?
I knew you were going to say that. And no, you're being an occupant at one of these base camps doesn't give you any more clout or less clout as far as that goes.
And I'll let them
doesn't
know
matter.
that. Ms. Domingue.
Thank you again, Chris. Last set of questions, I promise. how can someone check to make sure their name's on the list?
Yeah, right. We haven't, taken that into account.
Because I think people are just anxious because they haven't heard anything yet, and so they just want to make sure.
I mean,
And
we
we can't
have
really
so
publish the
many
list.
calls right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
No.
I wouldn't say that, call in and check and see. I don't think the phones would be so flooded. I think everybody would just get busy signals at that point. But I will talk to my team, maybe the folks with OCD, Office of Community Development, folks with the state who have experience with this in the past with other events. They might have some suggestions about how we can do that.
All right. Second question, and you probably don't know this, but this is something that maybe we could find out for the future. For children who are in schools, let's say they go to Broadmoor, but they move the camper to Legion, to an area over there, because maybe they have family or something like that. Are they going to be required to move schools, or are they going to, would the school board allow them to stay at the school that they're at? And that would be something obviously for us to ask, because, they want to have as much consistency as possible with that. Second, as far as Section 8 vouchers, I heard you guys talk about this. We have had a housing crisis for a long, long time before this hurricane, and Section 8 has been closed for about 10 years. So if you're not already in the system, you're not automatically going to get in the system as far as Section 8 vouchers. So as far as Senator Circle and as far as the people from the high-rise, they're going to be given these vouchers to be able to move somewhere around the country. They most likely won't even stay in Louisiana, but you won't just get a voucher and then say, oh, well, I can just go get a Section 8 house in Terrebonne Parish, because there is none. So that's something to consider as well, and something to think about, that whenever we're putting out that information, that you're not just going to get a Section 8 voucher. You're going to have to go through FEMA. And then I know there's a lot of land that the parish owns, so I would hope that we're looking at the parish-owned land before we look at leasing any other land. And I know we've got a lot of big parks, and we've got a lot of big facilities that possibly we could use, because we're going to need a lot of camps for people, because 5,000 on a list is, I just can't imagine where they're going to end up going. Lastly, when do we think the first Terrebonne Parish citizens are going to get into campers?
Well, we're seeing, right now, the process for our first responders and the parish essential workers is probably 5 to 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
But our goal is to get that down. And talking with Aptum, they were saying 4 to 5 days is what they've kind of had as their model in the past. And that's what we're going to shoot for. So I would think it's probably going to be sometime in the middle part of next week, like a week from today, before, when we have, because once we go through our process, like I said, Aptum has to go out, the state has to go out and inspect each site where the trailer is going to be placed. So there's that process that goes along with it. So, I would say I would like it to be happening, seeing our first resident, in a week.
Okay.
Gin Pop.
And are we expecting to continue to receive trailers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I said as of this morning, 99, there's probably more in there now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yeah, that was the question, that I was, person puts in an application, 111 Front Street, okay? And so we have to go out there and inspect that place to make that the inspection there. Then you would have to go back to where they want to locate it at instead of that particular property, and then do it
Yeah.
again. So that would actually lengthen the process just a little bit.
It does. I mean, it's the parish going out and doing the assessment of the damaged property. It's the state that's going out and doing the assessment of the property where they're asking the trailer to be placed. Whether that's the same property or, you know, another property elsewhere in the parish, the state has to do, so there's 2 inspections that are taking place, but we're looking at the damaged structure, the state's looking at logistically what needs to take place in order to place this trailer in this particular location.
Persons qualify, and then after that,
Yeah, we're not going to send them somebody who hasn't been vetted through our initial process. That would just slow things down.
now, one more question. Normally, we have nuisance abatement, and there are some situations that people that are already on record for certain types of facilities within Terrebonne Parish that they reside in. So therefore, you know what I mean, I guess that would actually be incorporated into the system already, where we already had circumstances where the conditions was unlivable.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. That's why I think it's important that that assessment be done. I think that's one of the reasons why the state preferred that be done by the locals who know the area better than, you know, somebody from Baton Rouge or wherever they're coming in from.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Okay, so let's just, for you guys to understand, the base camps were set up for people that needed a place to go interim before they get a trailer. Okay, so as the trailers start coming in, the base camps are going to be phased out. So it's a temporary place for people to go until they can make some decisions on what they're going to do from now on. Okay, so what's going to happen is the FEMA program and the state program is going to coincide with each other in the next couple of weeks. When that occurs, the state won't send any more trailers down, and FEMA will take over all the trailers, okay, and disseminate those trailers. FEMA will make the eligibility requirements of who gets a trailer and who does not qualify for a trailer at that point. So it is very important that people file for disasterassistance.gov through FEMA, because if you didn't file through that, you're not going to get a FEMA trailer when those 2 programs coincide with each other. That is going to happen pretty soon, because I got a text today that the FEMA site has its first trailer and it should be installed by October 19th. So that's about 2 weeks away before that FEMA program coincides with the state's program. Once that starts working, they're going to phase out those base camps, because people are going to start getting their trailers. And then you will know if you qualify or not for a trailer or not, even before you get your FEMA trailer, because they got to come out and do an inspection of your facility, of your house, and you have to sign a right of entry, just like you did for the state for that FEMA trailer. So just to let you guys know how that's gonna coincide with each other, it's probably gonna happen within the next couple of weeks, where those 2 programs are gonna coincide with each other. So, okay, any other questions regarding the hurricane? All right, COVID, I'm gonna go real quick. Okay, today we had 2 cases. We're up to 280 deaths in Terrebonne Parish. The testing is way down. We did 249 tests today. Yesterday. We had 3 people in the hospital in Terrebonne Parish and 2 in ICU. There's 15 patients in Lafourche. You have to remember, we have 1 hospital that does not have inpatient services at the present time, which I hope they have inpatient services within the next few days or the coming weeks, let's just say that. So a lot of our patients, or if you have COVID, you're getting pushed over to Lafourche Parish to Thibodeau Regional. Our percent positivity is way down. It's at 5.6%. Right before the storm, it was at 19.3%. So it's way down from the beginning of the storm. Our percent of vaccinations at 37.69%. I think it could be a little better, and LDH is working with us on that. The hospitalization numbers before the storm was averaging about 77 a day. And we're down to 3, so that has definitely improved. Lot of less cases, okay, but we're doing less testing also. But the Department of Health has quite a few testing places available, and we'll be putting those on our website and Facebook pages. Any questions on COVID? I know it was quick, but if y'all have any questions, please call me. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving along, item B, presentation by Consolidated Waterworks District Number 1 General Manager Michael Sober regarding Hurricane Ida response.
Council Chairman Guidry, good evening, your fellow council members and the administration. Thank you very much for allowing me to come tonight and represent your Consolidated Waterworks District Number 1 of Terrebonne Parish. And I'm remiss that we have to go back and ask your memory to think about what it was like without water. Okay? Some of you knew it for a little bit of a short time, some of you a lot longer. I promise you it was not intended to happen. Before I get started on this presentation tonight, I would like to take a minute and just introduce the Board of Commissioners that you have nominated and appointed over the years. First, Mr. Navy, your representative has been Mr. Vincent Celestin. Mr. Harding, your member, Wilbur Thomas, is out of town, taking care of business while his home is being repaired. Mr. Michel, your representative is Ken Ellender. Ken's right there. Mr. Amadi, I think Ms. Chatinier was called away on some other previous engagement and won't be here tonight. Ms. Domingue, Mr. Johnny Pizzolata is your representative. Mr. Chairman Guidry, yours is Mr. Charles Brown. Mr. Babin, your nominee, Mr. Chester Wazan, is camping out with his daughter while his home is repaired down in Dulorge and won't be here tonight. Mr. Dirk Guidry, of course, you know Mr. Clifton Stufley, and Mr. Trostclair, Mr. Steve Hornsby. There we are, okay. So I guess August the 29th, August the 30th, August the 28th kind of goes down as one of those times where were you when President Kennedy was shot, if you're old enough? Where were you for Hurricane Betsy and Men on the Mars and not on Mars, but on the Moon, those kind of things. I'm sure Hurricane Ida will come along for a long, long time to come. It was certainly very devastating to those people in Terrebonne Parish that had to live with it and live through it and continue to live through with it. The wrong direction. Let's see here. That would help you, I guess. I don't know. There's only two buttons and I press both of them and nothing happens. This is what you come on.
You're in luck. Not every meeting we have our IT guy here.
Plan B. Okay, good, thank you. In the middle is the red, yeah. This is a representation, the color here is, of course, Terrebonne Parish. All of these squiggly blue things right here are water lines in Terrebonne Parish. We, of course, are a waterworks district, a subdivision of the state of Louisiana, and as such, basically, we have a monopoly on water in Terrebonne Parish. We have over 1,000 miles of pipe, 2 water treatment plants, 25,000, 40,000 valves, 8,000 hydrants, you name it, we got them. We used to have 16 elevated tanks, now we're down to 15, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Like most agencies that have been around for a while, we have a protocol and a procedure which we put into effect when a named storm is named for the Gulf, when it's 72 hours away, when it's 48 hours away, when it's 24 hours away. And these are the kinds of things where you start buying diesel and make sure your tanks are full and extra set of batteries and where you're going to put the people, who's going to be here, all the cars and trucks and vehicles are ready. I would recommend if you have a to-go list, so to speak, in case of an emergency and it happens to be a hurricane, you should add tire plugs. You would not believe how many tires flat we got. We were robbing tires off of one vehicle to keep other vehicles going. But these are the kinds of things that you learn as you go along. Kudos to our operations manager, Ms. Mary Trahan, and her engineering group that put basically this map together. I know people are familiar perhaps with Energy's interactive map and all. This is on our website on www.tpcw.org, interactive maps. This basically is being used today not only by FEMA, but by insurance adjusters, by the state health department to track our goings about when somebody had water. Because Mr. Pulaski and I had a conversation in the EOC, if you don't have water, your house or home is uninhabitable. That's the way it works. So now insurance adjusters are calling in and saying, hey, I live on by DeLarge. I'm trying to get this guy. When was it? Go to this map, click on the address. It's going to show you all the information, when the boil water was on, those kinds of things. So this is available to the public. It has been available to the public. When we have boil water notices in the future, it will be updated so that they can kind of try and help themselves. So before the storm, for the Monday through that following Friday, we knew it was coming. We didn't think it was going to be quite so bad. We didn't exactly know the exact timing, but we were ready. Our tanks were filled, both water and fuel and everything like that. So just to give you a little timeline of what's going on, Sunday, the hurricane is starting to hit. So if you look at the map up there, you'll see that everything that was blue is now red. That indicates there is no water. There is no water. Let me say that one more time. There is no water. Our system at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Shreve, we have 2 water treatment plants, Shreve and Homer. But in Shreve at 2 o'clock, our flow went up 60%. Guess what? Leaks. That's where it's going. Because the plant doesn't know. It's going to try and keep up the pressure. At 6 o'clock at night, we had to evacuate the Shreve water treatment plant. Now, this building has 24-inch concrete walls, solid. This is what a fireproof Category 5 wind-resistant roll-up door looks like when Ida went through it. That's the entrance to our chlorine gas room. There's like 15 tons of chlorine gas inside behind that door. When the door got to flapping around, it broke these chemical lines right here. This one in particular is chlorine dioxide, which is made by adding chlorine gas to chloride. So our staff, we were all, I think we had like 8 operators and 3 managers there in the plant, had to evacuate, like go outside in the hurricane to get away from the chlorine gas. Got back in, got their air tanks on, went in and fixed and shut off these lines so we could stop the chlorine gas from coming on. Okay? Then worked all night long, and by around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, had gotten the plant back up. We don't have any chemicals now. So that was a trick in itself. But we're able to get the plant back up and to get about 6 or 8 million gallons of water being made. That night, I issued a boil water advisory because the law says if we lose pressure, that's what I have to do. And so that's what I did. We lost pressure. We did not have water. So this is all going on Sunday, the first day of the hurricane. As the storm progressed, and it seemed like it was going to get worse. If you remember, it started out like a 1. Well, then a 1 might be a 2. Well, it could be a little 3. And oh, shoot, it's a 4, and damn, it could be a 5. Our Homer plant is not made for a Cat 5 stage. It's just not made. Too many windows, too tall, too open, too everything. We filled up, we had two 2 million-gallon ground storage tanks. We filled them up, the water was coming out the top. They were full to the top. We set the VFD on low. They were only using about 400 gallons a minute, and the guys got out of town, went to Shreve and waited. Somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock, I think, the flow in our Homer plant went up like 5 times. We had 4 days of water in the tank when we left. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, we didn't have anything. Everything was down to zero, ran out of water again. Couldn't figure out why. We have no communications, nothing's going on. So you'll see in a few minutes. But anyway, so now we're down to the 2 plants, neither one of them working. It's now Monday morning. We'd gotten the Shreve plant back up. The operators had left Shreve around 7 o'clock and made their way back to Homer and got that plant back up running. Around noontime, 1 o'clock, myself and the staff, our senior staff, started showing back up in the office, started trying to assess and figure out what was going on. We had some problems, like we ain't got no water. So the decision was made that while we had gotten both plants up and running, that we would shut off our main transmission lines to try and stop the bleeding. And so we went to Highway 90. We have 3 main transmission lines, 2 36s and a 124. We shut them all off at Highway 90. We took that 8 million gallons, which had now gotten back up to 10 or 12 million gallons, and started putting it from Highway 90 going towards the Vouchers parish line. That's the first day, Monday. We were out, we didn't have any, everything went to hell. And by Monday night, we had water in, and I think that says Monday evening. You see what's happening up on the top? See that blue? We were able to pressure up and get about 4,474 customers back in water. Not great water, not pressure, not everywhere going, but we started. And so that was the Monday. That was about 8% of the population, our total meters. We at least got people back in water and starting. So as time went on, now we're into Tuesday, the 31st. So you see the blue part is still here and it's growing. The green right here means it has water and the pressure is so-so. The orange right here is you have water and it's not too good a pressure. And then of course the red means there is no water, okay? So now we got the Homer plant back up. So we have Terrebonne General, which is located on Main Street by the high rise, and you have Shreve on Industrial Boulevard. With no disrespect to anybody, that became our main focus, to try and get those 2 institutions back with water, because they had no water, okay? No water. We took the Homer plant, we shut some valves on Grand Caillou Road, right on Industrial Boulevard, which basically shut off Grand Caillou. We were kept on Highway 90, we had opened the valves. That's how the green came about. That's how the green came about and the orange came about. Now we're starting to feed back into the city. We took our Homer plant and we closed all the valves we could, and we shot straight across and we went to Shreve and got them up to around 40 pounds of pressure. We closed off as many valves as we could, and we came down Dunn Street out of the Homer plant and got the pressure up to Terrebonne General to 15 pounds. Okay, doesn't sound like a lot, but 15 times more than they had the day before. So we kept working our way. This is kind of just downtown Homer, where Terrebonne General is. All of those green dots were now breaks. We had leaks there. Something was going on. We were losing water. Please remember that for us to find a leak, we have to have water. We have to put water in the pipe, and we have to have enough pressure to get it out. And so why me? Why didn't you get to me? It just takes time. We have to work. You do something today, you let it sit overnight, you pray, you come back tomorrow. If it held, you get greedy. You open a little bit more. Sometimes we got too greedy. We took one step forward and take two steps back. But we had a plan, and when we were executing it. So this is the city of Houma, and you can see where all the green dots are. Basically, this is the Houma Intercoastal Canal. So the water is getting there. It's not real good, but it's getting there. So now we're on Thursday, September the 2nd, and you can see, look how much more the blue is coming. I think that must have been the day, Mr. Harding, I saw you at EOC, and you were happy because you had a shower that day. You can see where the orange is, you know, and then Mr. Trosclair and Mr. Guidry, we coming your way, man. We're starting to come down in this direction, the Berg and Montague, the same way in Dulorge and Dulac. A big thank you always to all our customers. We still do things the old-fashioned way. Morning, Consolidated Waterworks. Yeah, where's the leak at? Okay, we'll get somebody over there. That's how we find a lot of our leaks, believe it or not. People call them in. And they were very vigilant in calling them in now. Another big shout out to all the volunteers in the fire department. We could not have made it without those people. They hit the roads for us, and when they saw a house that was flattened, they went find a water meter, they turned it off. And that's a big help to us. That was a really big help to us. Our total population of employees is only about 85. Some of those are administration, some of them is operators, some of them is distribution, some of them is management. And that's what we were working with. Like everybody else, our members have families. A lot of them have to evacuate with their families. While they all have level ones, they left them and they came back into town to go to work. So we were still at pretty much a relative skeleton force made up primarily of management by the time Thursday came. But by Thursday, we had Terrebonne General up to 35 pounds of pressure. Doesn't sound like much, and it wasn't enough to get to the top of the 7th floor. So we brought the fire trucks up, hooked them up to the fire hydrants, let them pump the water to the top so they could get their air conditioners back on. Air conditioners in today's world are not just to be comfortable for you, it's to remove humidity and have a climate control situation for x-ray machines and cancer radiation machines and all these kinds of things. Again, I know Ms. Phyllis has been here. First time in Terrebonne General's history, man, they had to shut down. First time. So if you think this storm wasn't for real, just think about that for a minute. First time in 60-something years, Terrebonne General shut down, closed their door. They didn't have water. They didn't have electricity. They had a lot of problems. But think about that. First time. So now we're on Thursday the 2nd. Pressure's starting to build. We're getting a little antsy. You know, y'all are calling. People are calling y'all when we're going to get water. When we get there, I promise you, there is no magic way to get water from right there to right here without fixing all of those pipes. It just don't happen. And like eating an elephant, it's one bite at a time, and it's one pipe at a time that we fix. And that's how we did it, and we kept going. So now we're going into Friday. Remember when we said that the amount of water just shot through the roof in Houma, at our Houma plant? That's $1.2 million in crumbled right there. That's the lower Dulac tank. 300,000 gallons, has probably 200,000 gallons of water in it, kind of weighted down. That's it. That's a tank. That's a tank. When you look at it, this area right here is a crater that's probably 15 feet deep, which we suspect is where when the bowl fell, it fell. You know, 8.5 pounds a gallon, 200,000 gallons, plus the steel, you figure it out. So we have insurance, you know, we're like everybody else, discussing things with the insurance adjusters and trying to figure out what's going on. But that's the lower Dulac tank. We were at an EOC meeting and somebody stands up and says, hey, I heard you lost your tank in Dulac. You lost our tank in Dulac. We didn't lose no tank in tank. Sent a guy out the next day. No, Dulac tank's fine. Come back, Dulac tank's fine. No, the one at the end. Oh, that's lower Dulac. Send him out there, comes back because you have no phone communication. I mean, everybody realizes that, right? You can't call Dulac anymore. You got to go. So he goes down there, comes back, and I said, what's up? He said, oh, no, I couldn't get there. I probably had to walk 2 miles. So like, so why you here? Go back and walk 2 miles, tell me what the tank looks like. Sure enough, he goes back, comes back and says, ring up, okay. That's it, right there. That's it. We had already turned off the valve, so we didn't know about it. Chavez had water, we were starting to introduce other water. So all kinds of good things you learn. So now we're doing pretty good. It's the 5th, which is Saturday, I think, or Sunday, I can't really see. But we got a lot of blue there, a little bit of orange coming your way, Mr. Trosclair, from Berg and Dirk, some of you coming into Little Kaya. And then it just kind of continues to go. You can see more coming down Dirk for you, probably to the end of Bayou-Side Drive, maybe. Trying to get through Berg. Couldn't get to Pointe-aux-Chenes, couldn't get to Montague. Chief Liner and Baum both said, don't come down here, man. You can't get here. There's too many poles still in the road, so we waiting. So that's what's going on. And now we're at, I believe, the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. So on the 5th, I think, I was able to lift the boil water advisory for west and north of the Intracoastal. We have been making compliant water for a long time. We have all our own generators. We're all self-sufficient. But the law says that I can't get off of boiled water until I'm on municipal power. So I had to wait for energy to get power to our Shreve plant so I could get off of boiled water. The same thing happened when we did East Homer, and that's what's holding us for the remaining part of Cocodrie, because we need power at Robinson Canal. We got generators. That's not good. You got to have energy hooked up. So now we have the poles and electric. Now we're trying to get the damn meter connected. So as soon as that happens, we'll get the pressure up, and then we can look about it. But so we're Monday, September the 4th now, and we have 41,000 out of 49,000 people back on. So in 1 week, we put 80% of the people back with water. And by and large, pretty good water and pretty good pressure to go with it. So as we jump along, you can start to see now we're somewhere on the week of the 10th. Mr. Babin, you can see where Dulac and by Dularge to Favu Canal, or it got water now. Plenty leaks, particularly around St. Eloi. I'm not quite sure why, but it did. We're blue all the way now, I think, to the end of Bayou-Side Drive, to Chauvin Tank, Mr. Guidry. We're working our way down, Mr. Trosclair. Montague kind of kicked our butt. I'm not really sure why. We just played hell getting through Montague. We just couldn't get there. And then when we finally got there, if we kept going, then we couldn't get Pointe-aux-Chenes. So it was kind of a catch-22 running back and forth. A lot of it had to do because we have a big pump station at Presque Isle, which is fed by another big pump station on Williams Boulevard, neither one of which had, well, we had our generators running, and we had backup natural gas engines. We didn't have utilities, so we couldn't get off. So finally, when that showed up, things started to improve. But anyway, you can see now by Friday the 24th, we're to the point where we've lifted the boil water. We now have power at Presque Isle and at Williams. All of this is now blue. All of this is blue. Dirk, you know, you're there, man. Robinson Canal, it's there. We're coming all the way. I think we were probably to Madison, I think, by now, Mr. Trosclair, as well as Pointe-aux-Chenes. So we just sort of kept going, and on last Monday, October the 7th, we succeeded in getting water all the way down to Coco Moreno through Little Kaya. We have a billing software that we use that gives us a lot of tools. And I know, I remember making a comment to the state that we were going to send our people out to read meters. And they took it like, you money hungry. I said, no, you don't understand. We don't actually read meters. We drive by. Everything is picked up electronically. Well, part of that program allows us to see and locate any meter that has water that has run continuously for 24 hours. It green pings on our computer, and it says that's a possible leak. So for those, that last little stretch that there, that we added, we sent the meter readers out, they read 624 meters, okay? 624 meters there. We only got replies on 300. So that, let me tell you what the other 324 means. Either somebody went, turned them off in the box, probably not gonna happen. Two, they covered with so much debris that the signal can't get out. Or three, it just ain't there no more. So we still got 400-500 meters that we don't even know where they, well, we know where they're at because they're GPS. We know where they're supposed to be at. We just don't know what's going on with them. We continue to put out in excess of 2 million gallons a day, more than a normal day would have been, if it's such, in fact, there is anything normal anymore in Terrebonne Parish. So I can only attribute that to leaks. But while it took us 5 weeks to go from nothing to 100%, it was a ride that was a very learning experience. I mean, we took a beating. Well, we got beat up pretty bad. We're back. I can promise you that we learned a lot, and we're pretty good at not making the same mistake twice. And we know where our shortfalls are, and we've already begun addressing those. But just to kind of give you an idea, we had a total so far, and they coming in somewhere around 30 or 40 a day. But so far, we've had 908 leaks, being comprised of 524 from customers, service line leaks 91, main line leaks 276. That's a big problem. It takes a day or two to fix those kind of leaks. And of course, hydrants 17. I would say upwards of 95% of all the leaks that occurred were either caused by trees uprooting or utility poles falling or doing something. For those who might be old enough to remember Andrew in the 90s, this august body discussed no more pine trees in public right-of-ways. I don't know if some of you remember that. But that actually came up. I don't think anything ever happened of it. But again, I know my good friend Mr. Pulaski is a big tree lover, and we talk about this all the time. Give you an idea. We were going to do a project in Montague, going to Montague on the road. We budgeted $1.5 million, came in 1.8. Then we upped it to 1.8, and it came in at 2.2. We're not going to do it, but we would have spent $500,000 just boring under trees, not to give it up. So we'll have this discussion as things go on. We made mistakes, and like I said, we learned from them. I would direct you, all of these leaks that are here, our interactive graphic map is on our website, www.tpcw.org. It's there. You can go back any day you want, see when boil waters were put on, when they've been taken off, whether you had water, whether you didn't have water, and this will be something that we intend to do going forward. Again, we thank you very much for the opportunity. We hope that our work was satisfactory to you under the circumstances. Always have room for improvement, and we will strive to do that. But thank you very much for your support, and we appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
And thanks, Mrs. Saber, for providing us the information. Mr. Babin, you have a comment?
Mike, I just want to make one statement. We just found a leak on some property that we bought it due like yesterday, okay?
Yeah.
So, because the building was collapsed on top of it. What I want to do is I want to make a statement to my fellow council people. Mike just got through saying that a great majority of this came from trees being uprooted that were on servitudes. We as a body, and I don't have the answer, I'm just throwing this out there, we as a body need to take a look at that and maybe put some meat and work with Chris Pulaski in planning and zoning into what we can do for the future. This is a learning experience that we just went through, and I don't think we have the luxury of not addressing this now. So we as a body need to address what we allow in servitudes and put some meat behind it to make sure that people understand that if you do something there, there's going to be consequences to pay. And it will help. If they were out of water for 2 or 3 weeks, I think they would be more than happy with any kind of legislation we come up with. So I just want to mention that to my fellow council people. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yeah, Mike, how you doing?
Fine, Councilman, thank you.
I had to explain to a few people, the box that goes.
The meter box.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
sir.
meter box. And the responsibility lies upon the residents at Wardport and the responsibility of Waterworks. I just
From,
want that to be-
from the main line, okay? And as Councilman Babin said, just to give you a rough tutor, quick. So you have a road, and in the middle of the road, there's a center line. They pretty much are the king, whether it be the parish or the state or certainly the feds, they own that property, call it free title. I think Mr. Hebert here, you certainly would correct me if I err anywhere. There's a center line of that road, and that center line has a servitude from one side to the other, so many feet. So when you drive down the road, you look, there's gonna be a utility pole on the left or the right, okay? That is almost the end of the road right away. So the utilities with electric are on the end. We, Consolidated Waterworks in Terrebonne Parish, 98% of the time, we privately own our servitude to put our water line in. We bought or we were given that servitude for our water line. And when you find that pole, go 5 feet, and somewhere in there is gonna be a water line. Everything between the pole going to the highway is for drainage, is for gas, is for telecommunication. And we will be at the next 811 meeting, because while we appreciate our electric utility brothers and the efforts that they did to bring Terrebonne Parish back, there ain't no reason to bust our water line with your utility pole. You know, we getting thousands of locates. We can't do that. We just cannot do that. We have 4 people that do that full time. We doubled up with 8 or 9 or 10 of us. And you just can't keep up with 500 people setting poles. So we think that maybe some of the burden should be on them. If you just pull out a pole or you're just replacing it and you didn't break the water line, but chances are you ain't gonna break it when you put it back. But certainly, Dirk, as you know, Highway 56 today is not where Highway 56 used to be. And our water lines are still where the road used to be, not where the road is now. We haven't moved those things. And so it's an effort that I think all utilities have to be a part of to solve, because we all suffer by it. You know, I don't want to break their gas line. I don't want to break their electric line. But you see those things. Ours, we're underground. But to answer your question, if I may, at the water meter, wherever that is, big, small, little box, big box, whatever it is, between that water meter and the main line is a responsibility of Consolidated Waterworks. When you leave that meter box, it becomes the property of the individual owner. We had one of the properties that was mentioned earlier, and we've had this conversation already. One of our employees was going home. They get stopped. Hey, man, we don't have any water in our neighborhood. Can you help us? Guy gets out the truck. He goes, hey, it's on your side of the meter. I can't do anything. So understandably, we're not going to turn off private property water. But they chose to turn it off themselves, and that put everybody out of water. So that's the deal on that.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
That's it.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yeah, Mike, look, I just want to give you guys kudos and appreciation for all the work that you guys did. I know I had several conversations with you throughout the event, and, you know, your guys were Johnny on the spot as much as they could possibly be. But my next thing, like I said, I really appreciate everything you guys did. Are there any more trees left?
Believe it or not, there are. There are. We spent a lot of money. For the first time, really, we had never thought about it, but, you know, just the trees overwhelmed us. We can't. It's like the debris now. You know where the meter's at. You got your GPS. You can get it. But, I mean, who the hell's going to move all this wood and crap on top of it? We don't have stuff to do that. You know, we got those hand shovels. So we can't get back in until somebody does something. Same way with trees. I mean, we hired like 3 tree cutting crews and kept them busy round the clock, just getting trees out the way so we could get to the water line. And if you look, there's really a method to this madness that goes on. You know, the hurricane hit Sunday and Monday, and a lot of no water, no electricity, a lot of damage. But it takes a while for people to get geared up. We knew it was coming. I mean, it's not like it came as a surprise. But you don't know what to fix until you find out what's broken, and that takes a few days. We were here. We were on the spot. Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, we were making decisions about what to do to get your water back. Okay? And then the next day, we're out trying to do it, but people are coming in. Probably took us 3 or 4 days before we could put 2 or 3 crews together to get them out. We had a couple of other contract crews dedicated to us that we were paying, so we got going and we got doing. I'm fortunate enough to be on the board of directors for the Louisiana Rural Water Association, which is the largest group in the state. And that's something we're going to have a discussion on, whether they know it or not, because I'm going to have the discussion next night on the 19th, that we need to develop a strike force that we can go together. I mean, I can fix your water line if it's in Shreveport or Lake Charles or whatever. Lake Charles 2 years ago, went to go help them. 5 hours driving. No place to stay. No place to eat. You're driving from the other side of Lafayette. Shit, in 5 hours, by the time you do all that, you can't do no work. Man, I'm sorry, we're going home. We can't do no good. So we'll be ready for the next one. We'll be better prepared for the next one than we are this one, though.
Well, I
Listen-
personally witnessed water meters in uprooted trees' roots. Personally witnessed it. So.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it was-
you know, it's amazing. Everybody loves the little trees when they put it. The problem is it's like a kitten. They grow up to be cats. Little trees grow up to be big-ass trees. And when they go over, they take the water meter with them, usually. You got it. You got it.
Anything? Mr. Navy?
No, just quick response to what you said, too. That's something that's very important, what you said in reference to having a plan. And I think that's the thing that the council spoke about, a lot of council members, and they want to definitely get on that bandwagon that was proposed several years ago. But anyway, get on that bandwagon where we all know what we need to do. One thing I said, you could try to prepare for destruction the best way you can. Sometimes we can't prepare for what God about to bring to us, okay? But you could prepare for the aftermath.
That's right.
And the aftermath have to have a structure, not a process, but a structure. So I think that's something that these guys are going to be working on. They're going to talk about later, and the young lady too.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be wonderful that the parish makes some changes from their perspective to say what's needed for Terrebonne Parish residents after the aftermath. Because once again, this is going to happen again. I promise you it's going to happen again. So we never should just, have our guards down. We should be prepared for everything. In fact, I just want to leave with this comment. I met with the Comcast supervisor or something, and he was telling me, he said, Mr. Navy, the problem was, and me and him had a long conversation about it, he said, the problem was nobody really knew what direction to go because we were working all behind one another. So we had all these utility companies, right hand, left hand, all that kind of stuff. And he was saying, we couldn't move. Everybody was upset because of cable and Wi-Fi.
Right.
But we can't move until the trash get picked up, till the lines get, so it was a process, and he said, that's what the lady does.
Yeah.
And he said, other parishes do it differently, and they have plans in place. And he said, if you all gonna create something, I want to tell y'all that. He said, get contact him. He said, we want to be at the table with you all guys, because that's important. We need a process, we need a plan, a comprehensive disaster plan. And these people here, Danny, this young lady here, they've been talking about that, and that's what they want to do. So I'm term limit. I'm not going to be here. And these guys have to come up with a plan that's going to better Terrebonne Parish to prepare for the next disaster. It will be one. Let's not get caught like this again. It will be one.
Right.
But I appreciate what you said, because you all need to be at the table too.
Well, think about it. The cable guy does what? He hangs his cables off the utility pole. Right. And what happens to the utility poles? They're all knocked down. Who puts them back up? Energy, Sleeker, City of Home. Right. You got to have a pole before you can hang a cable on. One thing we learned, traffic killed us more than anything. We were trying to get to buy Dularge. We had a truck and a trailer with 3 joints of pipe. It took him an hour and a half. I figured he's there on his way back. He's sitting in traffic in front of the Civic Center. I got to go get the sheriff to get a cop to get out there to escort him so I can get the pipe fixed. That's what I'm saying. And again, there is a method to the madness. We learned, made good friends with the energy counterpart at the EOC. Where you gonna be tomorrow? Because wherever you at, we ain't. And we got enough work. We'll find work. We can do things. But I'm not going to fight. I had to go break up fights between linemen and my guys going, what is, you ain't got enough trouble? You know? So we're learning. But thank you very much, Mr. Navy and Mr. Babbitt, and please include us in that conversation. You know, we're so quiet and bashful, we would just sit there for you, though.
Thanks again for the
Thank y'all.
information.
Thank
Thanks
you very
again
much.
for what you do. I know you've been working tireless hours.
I'm very fortunate to have some
Thank
good
you,
board
board,
members.
for serving
Yeah.
and being there.
They certainly
And,
do. Thank you very
thank
much,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving along. Item C, considering approval of the co-sponsorship request by the Kiwanis Club of Homa's Halloween Dog Parade and Festival on Saturday, October 30th, 2021, and Sunday, October 31st, 2021, from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at the Courthouse Square. Moved by Mr. Dirk Gidry, second by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? If you want, we could run through these pretty quick and just go to public hearing. Item D, consider approving the co-sponsorship request of the Louisiana Workforce Commission Job Fair on Thursday, November 4th, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Waterlife Museum. Moved by Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item E, consider approving the co-sponsorship request for the Live Well Bayou event on Saturday, November 6, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the downtown Courthouse Square. Moved Mr. John Amity, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item F, consider approving the co-sponsorship request for the Bayou Beer Festival on Saturday, November 13th, 2021, from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. at Fletcher Community College, Shreve campus. Move Ms. Domang, second Mr. Amity. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item G, consider approving the co-sponsorship request of the second annual Help Our Heroes Gumbo Cook-Off on Saturday, November 20th, 2021, from 2:30 a.m. to 9:31 p.m. Guess, okay, at 7856 Main Street. Moved by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Danny Babbitt. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item H, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon Dove to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement by Brian Voisin to utilize 111 Tellis Street, Houma, Louisiana, in accordance with the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program requirements. We have a motion by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded by Mr. John Amity. Mr. Michel.
Can somebody just give me couple of sentences explaining this? Because when I read it, it just seemed unusual and different than things we've done before. Okay, so I want to know what item H is about, the resolution authorizing parish president to enter into a CEA with Bryant Voisin to utilize 111 Tellis Street.
I believe that program, Julius said by parish attorney, I believe that's the program, that's the hazards mitigation FEMA program. Those lots cannot be resold in FEMA places, which you can use them for, what they can be used for. So if somebody's an adjacent property owner, something wants to use it, we have to enter into an agreement with them and put the requirements of their right of use for it.
Thank you.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, you got to follow the FEMA requirements, so.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item I, a resolution authorizing professional engineering, environmental, and inspection services on an as-need basis for the American Legion Post 31 Building Phase 2 Abatement and Remediation Project Number 19-BLDG-30. Move Ms. Domang, second Mr. Amity. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item J, resolution concurring with the parish administration to approve the sole source proprietary purchase of ML 2000 panels and accessories from M&L Engine. Move Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Babin. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item K, resolution concurring with parish administration to award bid 21 WHSE-37, purchase of new unused creosote poles to the lowest qualified bidder, Westco Distribution. Move Mr. Babin, second Mr. Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item I, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon E. Dove to enter into appropriation agreement with Sobis Incorporated to provide services for the Terrebonne Parish Hazard Mitigation Plan update funded by FEMA. Moved by Mr. Trosclair, seconded Mr. Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item M, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon E. Dove to execute the Emergency Management Performance Grant, fiscal year 2021, number EMT-2021-EP-00001-S01, from the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, GOSEP, for operation expenses of the Terrebonne Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Moved by Mr. Trosclair, seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item N, introduce an ordinance declaring 5 vehicles from the Houma Police Department as surplus and authorizing said items to be disposed of by any legally approved methods, and calling a public hearing on October 27th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Moved Mr. Amity, second Mr. Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item O, introduce an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. TLCD, $1 million, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Ms. Candace?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Trosclair.
Yeah.
Who was first? Mr. Babin.
Yeah. Candace, could you just explain this for the people listening?
Yes, sir, absolutely. That was Brian, that wasn't me. So the $1 million for the levy district, the Terrebonne Parish collects the quarter-cent sales tax on behalf of the levy district before they were able to collect their own sales tax. So we have that. That is what we use to pay for the bond debt, so the debt service, the principal and the interest for the Merganza bonds. The levy district then draws down on what's available after that. We did refund these bonds a couple of years ago. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, and we never decreased what we were transferring to the debt service fund. So we ended up having an excess in that fund. So we're putting it back to our Terrebonne levy district fund in order for the levy district to draw down on that additional $1 million. So it's what we collect on their behalf, and it can only be used for levy district.
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody to think that we were putting out $1 million towards the levy district right now. This is their money that we are just giving to them to
Yes,
utilize.
sir. It's their money that we have collected on their
Correct.
behalf, and they
Correct.
can
That
utilize
the
it that way.
citizens of Terrebonne Parish voted to give to
Yes,
the
sir.
levy district. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Candace.
Good clarification. We have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item P, introduce an ordinance to amend ordinance number 9300, which is to codify as section 11-36 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances in order to define protocol during an emergency declaration and to call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Move Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. We have a light Mr. Harding.
I know we've had circumstances, I guess you can talk to someone in reference to this. It does apply to trash pickup, and I'm really looking at the fact that they're giving them a 5-day notice. Is this actually saying, in a time of emergency, such as we are in right now, that they don't have to give a 5-day notice? Pete? Actually, we're in an emergency situation, so in an emergency situation, am I under the understanding saying the notice that goes out normally they don't have to send that notice out, or they're not required to have 5 days to remove the trash off the property?
Well, generally, when you're in an emergency situation, that is correct. That's the purpose why we did it. To add that as that if, obviously, you're supposed to have due process. During an emergency, due process can be relaxed. So our intent was, is that it was an emergency, we don't have time to make that notice, and you got trash in the middle of that street, and it's disrupting the drains or something, we gotta go remove it. We setting it up with a declared emergency where you don't have to give out the notice.
You don't have to give out the notice, but it's still responsibility of the property owner to
Still a
act.
responsibility, that's right, we're going back and try and collect it from you.
Okay, so
That's
that,
correct.
now, as we go further down the road, you know, I mean, we've had some circumstances, you know, I mean, that we've actually encountered with landlords evicting people, and through nuisance and abatements and stuff like that. We've been
And that's
trying
what
to-
we're trying to address here.
Right.
Is that that was the whole idea in doing this ordinance, was to address those situations.
Right, but
Okay,
it's,
but we gave a little flexibility in case there was an emergency, that you don't have to give the notice.
right, so you don't have to give the notice, but then that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want the people that's out there that still have trash to put on their property, and it looks to be an eyesore, and we don't actually go through the due process of actually giving what was previously granted to them a 5-day notice. So, you know, man, there are some conditions, we don't know how far, or how far down the road we're gonna be actually putting trash to the road. So, in the eyes of the beholder, we run into a situation where blighted property to the neighbor is a guy's castle.
And-
So, we have to be careful what we're doing with that.
That is
I do.
correct. And if it would be necessary, the parish president could issue a declaration if necessary.
Okay, just question, put it out there.
And if I understand right, this is an ordinance, so it will have a public hearing as well, right?
That is correct.
But,
Mr. Babin?
But, Mr. Abab, we as a parish have the responsibility to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens.
Absolutely.
So if you deem it, if the parish president deems it necessary to move this because it's blocking a drain, that's
Absolutely.
why we're trying to get away from the 5-day notice. To
Absolutely.
protect them, then we go back on them after.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
No more discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item Q, introduce an ordinance to authorize Parish President Gordon E. Dove to accept and execute on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government as grantee a servitude agreement to provide a levy for the Holy Family Cemetery in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, and a call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
So moved.
Move, Mr. Babin, seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item R, an emergency ordinance authorizing the relocation of Terrebonne Parish precinct polling locations due to an emergency arising from Hurricane Ida for the election of Saturday, November 13th, 2021, and the election of Saturday, December 11th, 2021. Move, Mr. Amity, seconded by Mr. John Navy. All in, oh, Ms. Nancy, did you want to say something? Pl- you-
We'll take it.
Go ahead. Sure, give us a quick update before we approve this. All right, wait, there's that microphone that has to. It got damaged in Hurricane Ida.
Okay, let's try now. Ms. Robichaud wanted to be here tonight, but she couldn't, to give you an update. I'll try to make it really quick to let y'all know what we've been doing to try to get this election off the ground due to the untimely visit of Hurricane Ida. We have 77 voting precincts in Terrebonne Parish. 40 individual voting precincts were relocated due to various degrees of damage caused by Hurricane Ida to 23 precinct locations. Some were relocated to existing precincts and some were relocated to other or new locations. As required by the Louisiana Election Code, the list of precincts and locations to be used in the November 13, 2021 election will be published in the Courier as a public notice within the coming weeks. This notice will be updated to reflect the relocated precincts once made official. Also, the list of relocated precincts and their locations will be published in the Courier on the Wednesday before the election. The Clerk of Court office will supply this information to the Courier. The Secretary of State's office has already placed signs in high-traffic areas around the parish. These signs give the voters the 1-800 number to call if they don't know where to vote on November the 13th. The Clerk of Court and our election department has been very busy working to get the precincts relocated, securing the needed approvals, and getting the necessary paperwork to the parish president's office to request the relocation of these precincts for the November 13th election. The Commissioner of Elections has also approved these changes. The Clerk of Court Election Department, along with Ms. Suzette Thomas, Council Clerk, completed 5 polling place accessibility surveys Monday, and Ms. Thomas emailed them to the Secretary of State office. There are 2 polling place lease agreements that were secured for the old Rite Aid parking lot on St. Charles Street and the American Legion Auxiliary Kenneth C. Boudreaux Unit 380 in Chauvin. There will be 3 tents set up in the parish for voting. The tents have to be used because in some areas there were no locations to move the precincts to. Tent number 1 will be precincts 14A, 14K, and 74 who normally vote at the Woodman of the World Hall. These voters will vote in tent number 1 at the Old Rite Aid parking lot on St. Charles. Tent number 2 will be precincts 68, 82, and 90, who normally vote at the Bayou Black Recreation Center. These voters will vote now at the parking lot. Also in tent 2 will be precinct 83, which is the Mulberry Elementary School. They too will vote at the Old Rite Aid parking lot. Tent 3 will be precincts 55, 56, 88, and 89, who normally vote in the Berg Community Center. They will vote in the tent that will be set up in the Berg Community Center's parking lot. Okay? The 3 tents will be provided and set up by the Secretary of State's office. Setup will be on the Thursday before the election and will be removed on the Sunday, the day after the election. The Secretary of State will provide generators, lighting, tables, chairs, fan and/or heaters, and the election equipment. They will also provide security at the tents. The Secretary of State will also provide signs at each relocated precinct. These signs will be attached to the tables at the precinct, and it will state the old precinct name and the precinct number so voters will know which table to go vote at. The Clerk of Court will supply staff at each old precinct location to direct voters to the new relocated location if necessary. The Clerk of Court will also supply staff at each of the new relocated precincts to direct the voters where to enter their building to vote. Okay, y'all have probably read the locations and everything else, so y'all don't need me to go over that? Okay, thank you. The Registrar of Voters gave me a couple of bits of information. All voters affected by the relocation of precincts will receive a letter from the Registrar of Voters, Ms. Rhonda R. Rogers, stating where their precinct has been relocated to. On that voter letter, it will say in quotation marks in capital letters, temp poll place, letting them know that it's a temporary polling place. The Register of Voters will place the updated precincts on her website once it's made official. The Go Vote app will reflect those changes. And if any voters have questions about their precinct location or voter registration, they are to please call the Register of Voters office at 985-873-6533. That's a quick update as to what we've been doing. We have a lot more paperwork to do before we can get this election going. We do the draw for the commissioners this Friday, and that really starts the ball rolling for the election for us. It has been a very time-consuming and a very stressful ordeal to go to find out that Some of these precincts have been destroyed by the storm. Some of them have a lot of work to be done on them. And in areas we couldn't find even a place to relocate the precincts to. So that's when the Secretary of State's office stepped in with the tents, and we'll take responsibility for that, okay? Do any of you have any questions?
I think you gave us a great update, and
Was that?
I think you gave us a great update of where we
Okay,
are,
thank
and I
you.
think you guys have done a lot of work. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And thank you
y'all.
for coming. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The emergency ordinance is approved. Public wishing to address the council. This item was pulled at the request of Mr. Bergeron, but it was Mr. Floyd Bergeron wishing to address the council relative to the lack of government and government waste. We have one speaker card. Mr. Tommy Jenkins with Universal Construction LLC. Mr. Jenkins, if you don't mind speaking into the microphone.
I want to start off by thanking the City Council for this opportunity to come here tonight. I understand there's a housing problem here in my city. I'm 42 years old. I'm a local federal contractor. I've been contracting for the federal government since 2005. I currently hold the Operation Blue Roof contract with FEMA and USACE, as well as a debris removal contract with DRC. My partner and my team, they are here. Gentlemen, would you please step up? My other part, Mr. Donald Rowe, he's in the restroom. Mr. Rowe also holds a FEMA contract and a City of New Orleans contract for waste
I think you just took the Band-Aid off of that microphone there.
Okay. There you go. Testing 1, 2,
Okay,
testing.
we're on.
So I want to pass this packet out to each council member before I start, if that's okay.
Sure. And if you don't mind being as brief as possible, I know the night's running.
All right, so here we have what is not in the packet, and it's the tents. It's something that we use as a last resort because of the durability. We're still in the storm season. If a storm was to come, they're getting blown away, all right? The next thing is, it's a congregate setting. So therefore, we're still in COVID, so this is not the best option either. So introducing my team here, I would like to start with Eric and Miss Alicia Brown. They are the owners of JCJ Management. They currently hold the contract with FEMA for transporting the trailers into the state for temporary housing. They already have the contract. My next team here is Scott and Barbara Stokes. They're the owners of GSH. They currently have the contract to support trailers in FEMA housing. They actually sell the trailers as a manufacturer to FEMA under commodities dealing. Mr. Jimmy Chapman, who passed out the folders. Come on, Mr. Jimmy. Mr. Jimmy, he does the haul and install contract. This is the man who completed over 20,000 temporary housing units for Hurricane Katrina. He also sells commodities to FEMA. You're gonna need tires for those trailers. This is the man who sells them to you, all right? And Mr. Anthony and Kimberly, they are Native American general contractors from Alexandria. Plus, we're partnered with SRS Global, which is the largest minority firm in the country. They're a prime contractor. So this is your actual housing team. This is everyone you need from start to finish, whether it's mobilization, the maintenance, the setup, the demo, the plumbing, the electrical. This is the team here. They already got the contract. They already moving the trailers here. She's going to explain to you, Ms. Barbara's going to explain to you how many trailers we have currently available. I believe it's like 572. We already secured them. Also, we have man camps that we could set up, in 10 days. And Ms. Barbara, if you don't mind, please step up and explain to the city council.
Thank you very much. My name is Barbara Stokes. I am one of the owners of GSH, and my husband, Scott Stokes, a little nervous. I don't speak well in front of anyway. Well, we're here to be your resource. We're a government contractor. We've been a FEMA contractor since 2008, and we manufacture the mobile home, or the modular homes that you see, the manufactured homes, the gray FEMA trailers. That's what we manufacture. And we also have been supporting, since Hurricane Michael, the travel trailers for FEMA. We've delivered 2 contracts worth to Hurricane Michael approximately 2 years ago, and from contract execution to delivery, we were 34 hours. So we're pretty quick with what we do. So anyway, currently in stock, I have 540 travel trailers. We are a federal contractor, FEMA. We have additional units set aside for FEMA, but we have some on the state level. The reason why I'm coming here today is because my partner and I, Anthony, we've had the pleasure of working for Rebuild Florida since August. We're supporting Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Michael applicants. Hurricane Irma happened 5 years ago. Michael happened 2 years ago. We are housing these people 5 years later. It is just terrible. We need to speed up the process, and we're here to help you speed up your parish's process. With whatever resources you need, we are here to help you. We did not start Hurricane Irma or Michael for the housing aspect until August 18th. Since then, we have approximately 72 applicants that we are supporting. We have overachieved Rebuild's thought that we could do, because we know what we're doing, and we're trying to house these people as soon as possible. You shouldn't have to wait 5 years for a home. We want to put you secure. We want your family safe and in a secured environment, and we will do whatever resources we need to help you through that. But let me explain the little things that we have. Okay, so we have 540 travel trailers ready for deployment immediately. We can have them within probably about 28 hours down here. They're a little farther south than Panama City, but we can have them here very quickly. Second is we have man camps. I have a 272-bed man camp. They're duplex, so there's 68 units, and there's 2 duplexes in a unit, and they have full kitchens and full bathrooms in them. And they can be separate or together in one large group camp, or several smaller ones throughout the city where you would like them. They can be full wraparound services if you'd like, full catering, but they do have full kitchens. So, and that can be deployed down here in about 10 days. It's fully demobilized at the present time, ready for shipment. So, does anybody have any questions?
Have you spoken with any, like Mr. Pulaski or our EOC director, Mr. Hughes, or so, about getting together with GOSEP?
Yes, I'm a GOSEP contractor, and Mr. Pulaski and I, we spoke briefly, and he did mention that we would have a conversation after this council meeting. Yes, sir.
And regarding, a gentleman brought up ADA compliant. I'm a biomedical engineer. Our units are and can be ADA compliant. The units we currently have, we can put the handicap accessibility requirements, whatever they need, full or partial, into the units immediately.
Well, this is a wealth of information. Thank you. You know, it's nice to be informed about all the options available. Mr.
I don't have my
Michel?
light, I can't find my light. Just a quick question about ADA compliance. Is that just a ramp to get in, or are there gonna be widened hallways and doorways on the inside as well? That real short, because we really have to go.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I'm sorry. So 2 years ago, we developed an ADA compliant travel trailer for FEMA. They currently have it, our engineering, and they're currently looking into it. But we have some that we have 36-inch doorways. We have the 10-foot radius bathrooms. We have the 19-inch high toilets, full ADA. So it's not just the ramp. We have the 48-inch light switch and the cabinets, so it's full.
Thank you for getting us the information, and please get with Mr. Pulaski or Mr. Hughes and administration. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
All right, moving into 6:30 public hearing. An ordinance to amend the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 5 Animals for the purpose of clarification. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye.
Motion
Motion to adopt, Mr. Gerald Michelle, second Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item 3, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. The Veterans Memorial District, 3 expiring terms on September 17th, 2021, representing the Regional Military Museum Foundation, Vietnam Veterans of America, and Legislative Delegation South. Mr. Will Terrio, representing the Louisiana, or the Legislative Delegation South, expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. C.J. Chris, representing the Regional Military Museum Foundation, expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open, close, and appoint, and hold over the third.
Motion to open, close, and appoint and hold over the third by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item B, Coastal Zone Management and Restoration, 4 expiring terms on October 31st, 2021, 2 representing the public, 1 representing recreational fishing, and 1 representing property owners. Mr. Ernest J. Babin Jr., representing the public, expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open, close, and appoint, and hold the other 3 over.
Motion by Mr. Babin to open, close, and appoint Mr. Babin and hold the other 3, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item C, the Airport Commission, 1 expiring term on October 14th, 2021. Mr. Vincent Celestine submits application and resume for consideration. Motion to open, close, and appoint by Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item D, TITA, 3 expiring terms on September 9th, 2021, 1 representing each of the following: the Terrebonne Parish Council, Home of Terrebonne Parish Chamber of Commerce, and SCIA South Central Industrial Association. Mr. Jason Underwood, representing SCIA, expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open, close, and appoint, and hold the others over.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Underwood and hold the others over by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item 4, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. We have the Veterans Memorial District coming up, 1 unexpired term due to a resignation and 1 expiring terms on September 17th, 2021, representing the Vietnam Veterans of America. Recreation District number 3A, 1 expiring term and 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Recreation District number 6, 1 expiring term. Recreation District number 7, 1 expiring term on October 24th, 2021. Bayou Blue Fire Protection District, 1 expired term. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. TITA, 2 expiring terms on September 9th, 2021, 1 representing each of the following: the Terrebonne Parish Council and the Home of Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce. The Coastal Zone Management and Restoration, 3 expiring terms on October 31st, 2021, 1 representing the public, 1 representing recreational fishing, and 1 representing property owners. Ahoma Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, 3 expiring terms on December 31st, 2021, 2 representing civic nonprofit organizations, and 1 representing the Homa Terrebonne Regional Military Museum. Item 5, council members request discussion of. I think, Mr. Michel, we have discussed, have discussions relative to housing and how priorities are made. Did anybody else want to have any discussions on that? Item 6, announcements. The parish president is not here. Council members. Mr. Navy?
No, I think Danny was going to. No, I just want to make a comment. An incident that happened, I just want to talk to the
You
council
go,
members about.
push the button?
I did, it's pushed.
Is it red?
Yeah. Incident happened, look, we have FEMA and HUD at Mechanicsville Gym working to get vouchers and stuff like that. Then they had an incident where one of the managers approached one of the workers or something about who's going to clean this facility. We all working together. I'm pretty sure they work in the child facilities too, but so in general, I just wish that the council members that represent District 11 also speak to the manager or the board, the board supervisor, whoever it is, Ronald Rainey, about talking to his staff about, we working with these people, so that's ridiculous. So I just want to make that out there, so you all give me some support on that and try to talk to that individual, please. Thank you all.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, I hope the general public that was here and those that are listening realize this went on a long time tonight, but all of the questions that we have been getting from you, we tried to ask here tonight. And hopefully they were all answered by the appropriate people, because this is a situation that none of us have ever been through before. So the more questions we ask on your behalf, the better informed you are. So please just keep the faith, and God bless all y'all who have lost so much in this terrible storm. Thank you.
Any other council members? Mr. Michel.
Thank you, and I just want to thank the Louisiana Department of Health and all of the administrations of the various nursing homes in the parish for working together so hard to do the right thing and get these nursing home residents back home where they belong here in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Thank you. And engineers' reports? As per Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor, say aye. And we have a motion to adjourn, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye. Are we adjourned?